Yeah, peace, peace, peace. It's the mad scientist. Teach. So like check it out. I hope you like this presentation. But the information that's come up, I didn't make it a presentation. I'm just gonna show some information. Um, but I'm gonna play this video before we get started. I just wanted to speak on. I think the problem is with the Negro of America. We're trying to be one thing. You got one side that's saying, "Oh, I'm just an African, this, and that." The other side saying, "I'm just an indigenous person, ain't nothing else." When a lot of them people had relations with each other, even if you want to say the Africans, Israelites, whatever name you want to call them, um, mixing in, and not a lot of them, not all of them, but it's enough of them to where we should be. It's enough of them to where we should be talking about it. And uh, yeah, yeah. Well, let me introduce the panel. We'll go YASHA, then Israel first. Tell the people where they can find you at.
Hey, this is Yasha Ben Israel. You can find me over at the Yasha Ben Israel channel. I'm thinking about changing that name to Yasha's Israelite Thought. Yeah, but right now you can catch me over at the Yasha Ben Israel channel, and that's where you can find most of my work. I ain't fucking with Sarnetta, so I do got work over there. You can't catch me over there. You'll never catch me over there again unless boy bow down to God and pay me. Other than I said bow down to God and pay me. Other than that, you won't catch me over there. You see some of my work over in the Lions Den. I don't know, it's shit going on with that too. But yeah, you can catch my work over there. You can catch my work over here, and you can catch my work more so at the Yasha Ben Israel channel. Okay, that will be changed to Yasha's Israelite Thought. But yeah, you can catch me over there. Hey, I'm gonna pass the mic to young Tory. Because I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Take the mic, Tory.
Hey, peace, and shalom to everybody. I'm brother Tory. You can catch me over there on Judah Nash channel or on the Lions Den. But you know me, I just be cooling. I ain't got too much to say.
Okay, that's what's up. But like I said before, I just trying to show the history of some people say African, some people say Israelite. So whichever term that they use, because even though we know African is not really a real name that we should be using, but the people of the boats and the indigenous people of America, mixed in. Not everybody. I'm not saying everybody just native, indigenous and Israelite or indigenous African. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's enough people to where we should be acknowledging them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna get to this video first, like a 12-minute
Uh,
video
uh,
before we get
Hey,
started.
can I say something
Yeah,
real quick before you go proceed?
yeah,
We're
mm,
talking about history. We got to understand that America, as we know it, ain't even 400 or 500 years old. It ain't even 300 years old. All right, it might be what? Yeah, it might be roughly close to 300. Something like that. This is a very, very, very new place, and the history that we have is a new history. And I'm just saying that when we dealing with this subject, man, you have to be very astute in history because the powers that be always change the narrative.
yeah.
And this is why it's important to respect your elders because your elders saw the change. Take the mic, E.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I come to Elder Yasha for a lot of information. I ain't scared to say it. You know what I mean? That's the problem with young people. They scared to act like they don't want to learn from people. Not talking about you, Tori. I know you do. You one of the people that do come to learn.
Hey,
But
Tori wanted to agree.
yeah, but
Hey,
this
Tori.
young generation is like they want to know it all. I didn't try to know it. I don't try to know it all because guess what? I ain't trying to be no best debater. I'm not trying to be the smartest person. I'm actually trying to teach my people. I'm a person that will get taught and then teach you, and that's how it's supposed to go. You know what I'm saying?
Respect, truth, honor. dignity.
Yep. But we can get to this video real quick. When I do this info, any of y'all got anything to say doing the info I'm putting, just stop me and just put your own, put your info in here, like, comments into what you want to say on.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this question is for Terry. Terry, you said you took an ancestry DNA test before, right?
Yes, I did. I took a DNA test. I didn't take it for ancestry. I took it because an Israelite brother was connected to a owner of a DNA a DNA Dimensions. I think that's what it is, right here in Detroit. And as an Israelite, he wanted to do tests on us, and he wanted us, my other brother, to connect him with a man in Detroit, a historical figure, uh, 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 to do a television show at WHPR TV station is connected to the oldest black television station in the nation, way before BET, way before Soul Train, right? And he wanted to get a show on there, and my man Al Bracy had connections to the show. And so he got him some airtime on there, and he got to talking to me. And he was showing me these DNA tests that he was doing on African Americans but he was trying to sell the tests to African American men to tell them, take the DNA test. This is your personal, your personal evidence. And if the courts try to use you for child support, or if a woman tell you that this is not your child, you have your file right here. If something never happened to you, you have your DNA right here. That's what he was taking, giving the test for. At least that's what he portrayed to the public. But eventually, in talking to him, I got to reading others' tests, and I began to tell them things about history and how and reading their tests and how they test connected to certain tribes of Africa, and how these people possibly could have been Israelites. And the next thing you know, the brother had me on. He had a show. The white man paid for the show. He gave me a test because he owned the DNA place, and I was host of the show. Every show he came on, he did his agenda, and at the end, he would have me to read people DNA tests. And I would tell them whether they were Scottish, British, Russian, Chinese, and tell them about the history of their people. That's what I would do on that show. And I come to find out that most African Americans that I came across have Israelite DNA.
Oh, okay. Terry, so did
you page and see it too? I got my DNA test on the YASHA Ben Israel page. You have to scroll all the way down to when I first started YouTubing.
Right. Was it a saliva test, or what kind of DNA?
It was a saliva.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was saliva because he didn't take my blood, he didn't take my hair. It was a saliva.
Would you recommend it to me?
Yes, DNA Dimensions, but it's in Detroit.
Oh, damn.
I don't know whether you can call them and have them send you swab tests, because people do business different. I don't know whether they out and doing business locally, or whether have they expanded, or even thought to expand. But I do know that they up, and I do have to get with them because they gave me a graph, an actual picture graph, and Israel was on that graph.
Oh, okay.
Many other places: Egypt, Ethiopia, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Spain, all the places where Israel ended up in the history books. Mind you, that in the Talmud, it talk about how when the Assyrians captured the Israelites, they deported them into Africa. Uh-oh. And that's in the Jewish Talmud.
Beautiful.
You got any more questions there, or I mean, Tori or Yasha, you got anything else to say before I play this video?
Nah, that's it for me.
Oh, Tori, if you examine and do your research on my page, all that information is on there.
Okay, got you.
All right, I'm about to get to this video real quick, and and we're gonna get to this information. Like I said, you know, if you got any information to add on, just add on. You know how we build. All right, check.
Original American. I'm ruling everything. That's right. Call me the big chief. Yeah. Tower 10. Everybody else is beneath. All the villages. Each and every tribe. I make the laws I control if you live
For Gullah music and folklore, but the Gullahs were physically more suited to the tropical climate and possessed an indispensable um, knowledge of tropical agriculture. And without their assistance, the Indians would not have been able to cope effectively with the Florida environment. The two groups led independent life in the wilderness of North Florida, raised several generations of children in freedom, and they recognized the American settlers and slave owners as their common enemy. The Americans called the Florida Indians Seminoles, from the Spanish word Cimarron, meaning wild or untamed, and they called the runaway Gullahs Seminole Negroes or Indian Negroes. Modern historians have called these free Gullah frontiersmen the Black Seminoles. The Seminole settlement in Spanish Florida increased as more and more runaway slaves and renegade Indians escaped the South, and conflict with Americans was sooner or later. Um, what's this word right here? Inevitable. There was skirmishes in 1812 and 1816 and 1818. General Andrew Jackson led an American army into Florida to claim it for the United States, and the war finally erupted. The blacks and Indians fought side by side in a desperate struggle to stop the American advance, but they were defeated and driven south into the more remote, uh, referred to this first Seminole War as the Indian and Negro War. Okay, so them racist people that call themselves Indians and don't really like us, that shit never existed before. We was always peoples. We was always fighting together. We was always in slavery together. We mixed in. We married. That five civilized tribe having a slave. Of course, all races had slaves. Okay, black people had slaves. Some Indians had slaves. Europeans had slaves. Okay, Africans were selling Africans over there. So a lot of people, because it was all about money. And then it became about race. It was more about money, first about money than anything. All right. Um, Army into Florida and claimed it to the United States, and war finally erupted. The blacks and Indians fought side by side in a desperate struggle to stop the American advance, but they were defeated and driven south more to remote. Hold on. The first Seminole War is the Indian Negro War. In 1835, the second Seminole War broke out, and this full-scale guerrilla war would last for 6 years and claim the lives of 1,500 soldiers. The black Seminoles were waged field-crest resistance, as they feared the capture and surrender meant death and return to slavery. And they were more adept at living and fighting in the jungles than their Indian comrades. The American commander, General Jessup, informed the War Department that this, you may be assured, is a Negro and not an Indian war, and the U.S. Congress and the period commented that these black fighters were contending against the whole military power of the United States. When the Army finally captured the black Seminoles, officers refused to return them to slavery, fearing that these seasoned warriors, accustomed to their freedom, would wreak havoc on the southern plantations. In 1842, the Army um, forcibly removed them, along with the Indian comrades, to the Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, in the unsettled West. Okay, just letting you know that we went the war together. These people were so scared of them, they took them to a whole nother. They moved them out to a whole nother place. They didn't even put them back in slavery to where they was originally at. You know what I'm saying? These people have been together and they got together to where they was calling them Indian Negroes. All right, let's see here. The black Seminoles, exiled from their Florida strongholds, were forced to continue their struggle for freedom on the western frontier. In Oklahoma, the government put them under authority of the Greek Indian slave owners to try to curb their freedom. And the white slave traders came at night and kidnapped their women and children in 1850. A group of black Seminoles and Seminole Indians escaped south across Texas to the desert badlands of northern Mexico. They established a free settlement and, as in Florida, began to attract runaway slaves from across the border. In 1855, a heavily armed band of Texas Rangers rode into Mexico to destroy the Seminole settlement, but the blacks and Indians stopped them and forced them back into the U.S. The Indians soon returned to Oklahoma, but the black Seminoles remained in Mexico, fighting constantly to protect their settlement from the marauding Comanche and Apache Indians. In 1870, after emancipation of the slaves in the United States, the U.S. cavalry in southern Texas invited some of the black Seminoles to return to join the Army, and it officially established the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. In 1875, three of the Scouts won the Congressional Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration, in a single engagement with the Comanche Indians and the Pecos River. The black Seminoles fled the rice plantations, built their own free settlements in Florida wilderness, and then fought amongst continuously for 50 years to preserve their freedom. It is little wonder they should provide some of the first soldiers in the U.S. cavalry. I mean, finest soldiers in the U.S. cavalry. Okay. This is right here. This is Abraham. His name was Abraham, a black Seminole leader in the Second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842. The Indians called him Sunafi Tusti Nuki, a title indicating membership in the highest of three ranks of war leaders. He is wearing typical Seminole dress and holding a rifle. This is Abraham. All right. Let's see what the next one I'm gonna go to. All right. Let's see. Let me make sure anybody jump on. Oh, hold on. Here you go, right there. What's up? What's up, Kemetian?
What's going on with you, good brother?
Yeah, introduce yourself. Let the people know they can find you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace and love. Pardon the body, brother. I was on my other conference call, but we definitely on the manifest. And
Commission into his house.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we want to rise and give praises, to the great God. We honor him by many different affiliations because we know we talking about the same reality, so we ain't got to go into the essence of it. But what I will say, is that we want to honor all of the masterminds who came throughout the climbing time, all of our master teachers. And I'm your brother. They
Hey,
call
before,
me
hey, before
Commission
you get
Adept.
started, And peace, but before you get started, do know Terry got a lock and loaded question for you. Is there any evidence that Mansa Musa and Kanka Musa touched down over here? Go ahead and get to that right afterwards.
Yeah, all is well, beloved brother. No problem. So yeah, I was, I like to start by giving honors to the great God first and the ancestors, and somewhat open up the way for permission to speak. But just giving honors to everything, and like I say, people know me by the name Commission Adept Hereford, and that's from the name that they see in my thumbnail. And that was a degree conferred upon me by my Grand National Chairman. My actual name is Brother Shahid Shabazz El, and my high name, you know, is Shedu Amenti El Muhajid Shepsuel, which is basically the same thing as the other name. And so you can find me online by going to Commission Adept Hereford, you know, and you can pull up all of the information that we have here. Some dealing with what our brother talking about. Want to give honors to our brother Eric, the mad scientist, for this grand drawing and invite me here. I see he's speaking about the Gullah Geechee people and their African indigenous origin, and yeah, it's a lot in history when it comes to dealing with us being here on the indigenous level. In fact, with my DNA, being of an African origin as well, you know, um, the first people to touch down over here was around 16,000 years ago when it comes to our people. I mean, that's the time that they have in their particular records, but I know we indigenous to the planet. So, long before, a lot of the civilization that people are referring to now as native, our ancestors were here. But they would be descendants, the natives would be descendants of those who are already here, you see?
Yeah.
And so that's why they are called Native Americans. But there is records out there in the Islamic history that Mansa Musa and a few more people had already traveled over here, prior to the European coming. Problem is that what we have to realize, the European know this truth themselves. They got this information in their own vaults. But to make themselves seem as if they discovered something that was already here, of course they would sweep that under the rug and act as if, they was here first because for example, Mustafa Zamuri was the first to really discover, Florida in all actuality, but they sweep that under the rug, so to speak. It was a couple of more people who was actually navigating the ships. The ones who navigated the ships would have been the ones, even with Columbus, to be the actual discoverers. He basically said, "Well, what is this you see?" Because he couldn't have got there unless the person that was navigating, on the demonstration, took him there. And then he got off talking about he discovered it. Don't that sound familiar to y'all?
Yeah.
Don't that sound like when you invent something and you create something and then the European go through the back door and then basically they call it something else, reverse engineer, and then sell your idea as if it was their own. Look at
Yeah.
the brother just died with the engine, the aqua engine, hydro engine. That's a prime example of what we're talking about. So just cause somebody say that they did this and say they did that, they can say a lot of things, but it's up to you to accept that. So it's plenty records with many people out there, that a lot of people like to dismiss, all because the Europeans say they did it first. And we got to get up out of that. So once we're able to do that, we can look at all you got to do is look at the ancient monuments, look at the Mayan ruins, look at the Olmec civilization and everything that was over there. Come on, man, it's undeniable who the people are. You know, So yeah, a lot of Muslims had came over here early. We even got inscriptions on rocks, where they was writing, the Kalima Shahada and writing Muhammad name, and a lot of them was actually a part of some of the tribes. Some of them was even chiefs, of Indian tribes. Upon investigation, we find. You see, Mustafa Zamori actually end up taking on an Indian name and end up becoming. This is like a common thing. Seemed like for the Muslims to be affiliated with the Indians. So we already know that a lot of culture had been passed around from those particular affiliations, so to speak. So when you deal with the concept of what indigenous is, this is what our people have to realize. Before people, like the people didn't even call themselves, for example, they didn't use the term Indian themselves. That's the term that was given later, with all due respect to the terminology. But these were the aboriginals, the indigenous people, and they basically been here for a long time. And all the European did is come in here, conquer the people, pillage and kill off, and then take advantage of the people. Then next thing you know, they running around here calling themselves owning America. America
Hey,
belonged to
Kamisha,
them.
and before you popped on, I was telling them how the most astute a student of history would say that America was founded either by the Eastern Asians or the Western Africans, and that's a fact. And I'm telling you that none of the Indians today look like neither one of them.
Well, when they talk about the Eastern Asians and the Western Africans, the problem is, my brother, is that that's a true statement. The only thing is, the people that they call the Native Americans are not the true Native Americans. I tell
I'm
our
saying
people all the
I'm
time.
saying by any sense of the identity, modern, ancient, the Indian of today, he don't look like the ancient Asian. He don't
That's
look like
correct.
the modern Asian. He don't look like the ancient African. He don't look like the modern African. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's correct.
There's no genetic connection. Impossible.
That's correct when you deal with the modern Indian now, because the modern Indian now in America ain't the original person. But now when you talk about the aboriginals of Southeast Asia, what we call West Africa, you talking about aboriginals there, those are the same people. That's the thing. We got to look at it like this, brother. People don't know that people have been displaced and misplaced. That's why when you go all the way around the world, you can find people being called by one name. And a lot of people think that I say that name because that's what I am, but we telling the truth. Before they called us anything else,
And yo,
even the
and that's why I threw
Indians,
that out.
they
That's why I
called
threw
them
that
by the
out there.
name more.
And that's
Go
why I
ahead.
threw that out there earlier about how Sennacherib deported the Israelites into Africa, and this is in the European Talmud. We're talking about mass deportations, and nobody did it better than the Assyrians.
Of course. I mean, the thing is, some of us were here and some of us came. That's facts. Some of us was here from the time the continental drift took place. When the continents separated, they was already here. You see? But some of us were stolen. That's a fact. And I know that some of us was stolen by this fact. Because like I say, I had, and it was a reason. The Most High don't make no mistakes, brother.
But what
I
about that?
just so happen to know the world's greatest treasure hunter, son. And
What
you can
about the
look him up
Western
on
Africans?
huh?
The Western Africans used to come over here in fanfare, damn near 1,000 ships
They
per
did.
load.
They did.
And I'm
That they
talking about
did.
they've been doing it. We have Greek records that they have been doing this
They
ever
have.
since the days of the ancient Greeks. The
Brother, in
Greeks
our
said that
history,
the Phoenicians, the Western, Northern, Western Africas, were the first people to document these shores.
we teach. I'm trying to keep it simple right now. But in our history, we teach that we was the first people to circumnavigate the planet over 100,000 years ago. So we, like I say, we indigenous to the planet. But that's neither here nor there. Like I said, when you come up into this modern time, though, that's where the problem come in at, because people don't know how to distinguish these present people, just like they don't know how to distinguish the present people that's in Israel or Saudi Arabia or Egypt now. They don't know how to differentiate between them and the Aboriginal people that was there before they got there. So they base their assumptions off of who they see now, as opposed to knowing that before all that happened, before they even come on the manifest, we was there. You know, I got a drawing just to share in some information, because documentation always beat conversation. And I'm gonna just show you something right here, because I got a lot of this stuff right here in my page. And this right here was actually dealing with history.
Yeah, I can give me like
Go ahead, brother.
Give me like another 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna finish this off. I'm gonna let you show your presentation.
Okay, most definitely.
Yeah. I don't mind you showing stuff.
And Kemetian, hey, that's why I need him on my show. Kemetian get on fire, boy.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to come on, because I know
he
you
gonna burn
was
the
gonna
house
back me
down.
up. I know you was gonna back me up with some information. That's why I wanted to come over here.
Oh yeah, go ahead, bro.
All right, I'm gonna finish this off. I mean, if y'all want to input on it, like I told you, want to jump in on this, let me know. All right. I'm going to. I just wanted to show this part of the geechee people. All right, Africanism and the Gullah dialect. This is a new edition of Turner's original 1949 masterpiece, which was a seminal work of Afrocentric linguistics, arranged like a dictionary, and has Gullah words on the left side of each page of the corresponding West African words on the right side. Gullah is a language spoken eponymous people descended from former slaves in the coastal regions of South Carolina and Georgia. Pioneering linguist Lorenzo Dow Turner also uses the book to discuss the distinguishedly Gullah way of writing. So that's just why I wanted to show the Africanism that they're saying inside of the dialect of the Gullah people, because like I said, it was a guy out here who's saying that they didn't have nothing, no connection with no Africans, and like I said before, especially down in the southern East Coast, we was mixing with Native Americans a lot. Hold on for 1 second. Somebody speak on that real quick.
You can take it, Kamisha. Yeah, we have when we have ancient Greek records, man, of people like Diodorus and Pliny talking about how the Phoenicians of Western Africa, Northern Africa, at the time when they occupied the great Mediterranean, north and south of the Mediterranean Sea, and how they had their origins in this country. Not their origins, but how they have they are the original inhabitants as far as the records go. Now, it is believed that our people has been over here before recorded even history. And the people that they call Indians today, I am sure that their DNA does not go back to the ancient inhabitants of this land. For they look neither Asian nor African. And we have records that the ancient Asian was of Africoid origin. So I'm saying that it really doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
You look at ancient records. You back? Go ahead, E.
No, I said commissioner fell off. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you saying.
Yeah, I was just trying to hold it down till you came back.
Yeah, I agree.
I might have jumped off subject a little bit, but I was just drilling some key facts in.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you were saying it was relating to what we were saying. All right, I'm gonna do this. It's just right here, and then after this, I'm gonna let Kamisha go.
Kamisha still here.
Yeah, I bring him back in. I'm
I
gonna
think
finish.
Tori is Tori still here or Tori jumped off?
Let me see. Tori, I think Tori jumped off.
Yeah, Tori jumped off.
Yeah, but uh, oh snap! Damn, I don't messed up. Hold on. I think this is it. Oh, oh man, I think this is right here. Oh, I lost it. Hold on. How do I get my how do I get my tab back that I already just had? Let's see if this got the
Yeah, for the general public, my powers,
uh-huh.
Eli won't allow me to go back on the Sonetta show. My power, my strength won't allow me to do it. Some people will say they're God, but I'm not going to use that type of terminology. Ali, Eli won't allow me to go back over there. That's for the record. Not my power, not my strength. That's a place that's designed to take away my power and my strength.
Okay, here I go right here. Yeah, Sarnetta, yeah, we don't, we just, we gonna build our platforms up. And we gonna
Yeah,
get
I
this.
just ain't got time to play with people, man. You want to play chess and shit. You 60 years old, you still playing games, man.
Yeah.
I ain't playing these fucking games, man.
All
You
right.
got dumb nigga. You got a fucking felon, man. A motherfucking felon and an academic failure, high school dropout, want to sit up there and host the show against me and my people. Man, fuck you, boy.
All right. Let's get back to this right here. All right. The Gullah Geechee people are descendants of Africans who were enslaved on the rice, indigo, and sea island cotton plantations of the lower Atlantic coast. Many come from the rice growing region of West Africa. The nature of their enslavement on the isolated island of coastal plantations create a unique culture with deep African retentions that are clearly visible in the Gullah Geechee people's distinctive arts, crafts, foodway, music, and language. Gullah Geechee is a unique Creole language spoken in the coastal areas of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. The Gullah Geechee language can be simplified form of communication among people who spoke many different languages, including European slave traders, slave owners, and diverse African um, ethnic groups. The vocabulary of the grammatical roots come from African European languages. It is only distinct. It is the only distinctively distinct, 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 distinctly my bad, distinctly African Creole language in the United States. It has influenced traditional Southern vocabulary and speech patterns. All right, I gotta lighten this jump. Let's put some more light to this. Let me see if I got. All right, religion and spirituality has a sustaining role in Gullah family and community, 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 community. I hope life enslaved Africans were supposed exposed to Christian religious practices in a number of ways, incorporated elements that were meaningful to them into their African rooted system of beliefs. These values include a belief of God, community above individuality. I'm country man, so it's hard for me to say that. And individuality, respect for elders, kinship bonds and ancestors, respecting nature and honoring the continually of life and afterlife. Low country plantations frequently had a praise house or small structure where slaves could meet a religious service. Okay, the Gullah Geechee people, this is stuff where you can go and see they have meetings and they speak on the history and trying to keep the history because, like I said, in Virginia, they took the CRT out, critical race theory. They take in the Native American history out. You know what I mean? And they try to get rid of nine historical black people, including Martin Luther King Jr. So you got to be careful. Um, Kamisha, you can share what you was about to share. We can go ahead and go there.
Hey, before y'all proceed, I'm gonna have to bounce out. I got 19%, and this StreamYard is just draining my battery. And this new phone, somehow this charger is not keeping up.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna fall back and go out and watch it from the outside. Hey, y'all boys, hold it down. I love y'all. Blessings and peace to all of the black Aboriginal families, original families. All around the world, man. Because this is February, right? This is Black History Month, and it is about blackness. Black is everything.
He's out the YASHA. All right, Kamisha, you want to share your
Oh yeah, all is well. Yeah, I was actually trying to find that spot because I got so much information in my DNA where I was talking about the Gullah and the Geechee.
yeah.
And it mentioned that, connection. And I start back where I was. Let me share what I was getting ready to share a few minutes ago, for our family. Okay, there we go. Let's see. I was actually over here and I was trying to show this right here was an excerpt from Knox Races of Men. But it was saying here, said Othello, whether Negro or Moor, belonged to African race. Shakespeare, of course, was not ignorant of the great distinction between the two African races, Moors and Negroes. So they showed us the difference between the two, right? It says he may have well been aware of the Maori or the Moors were the aborigines of North Africa. What I'm doing, I'm establishing the aboriginal root because the brother was talking about the aboriginals, in one area, and then we're gonna get over here because if they were aboriginals there and they have a bloodline that came over here, then people can draw their conclusions clearly. It says an indigenous race, right? Quite apart in color from features, mental characteristics from the natives of Central Africa. The Negroes, it says, in this tract of North Africa, bounded east and west by Egypt and the Atlantic north and south by the Mediterranean, and Sahara flourished in rapid succession by the Carthaginian, where it says succession, the Carthaginian, Roman, of both empires, Vandalic, Saracen, Ottoman forms of civilization. Where are they now? And where are the races which gave origin to them? All but extinct. It says the barbarous Moor. Remember I tell you that word Moor mean barbarian originally? Not Moor, but Berber mean barbarian.
Yeah.
So they trying to put that on the name Moore here, this author that's writing. So when you sifting through these records, you're sifting through a bit of truth over here and a little bit over there. So you got to give or take it what it is. So we going through records. But I got something else that's going to go into coming to this side. It says Tibi, the Bedouin, alone remained. And they were there before the arrival of Queen Dido. And they are there now. Being the aboriginal race they survived, will its all intrusive races have become extinct. So basically, they saying that these original people that they referred to as barbarous Moor, that's a little form of, might be a little bigotry, the way they said it. But they letting you know that these people been there from day one on that side of the continent, right? So let me show you this other one coming behind that. It's speaking of, this is a different work right here, you know, and it's speaking of the same titles they use. And this is basically talking about the Vandals, you know, the people that they call the Melanocary, you know, they show all these different ways that they express the darkness of a people, basically. I ain't got to go into that. I want to get to these natives, is what I want to get into. And the terminology that they use here. Here's another one here. And I ain't going to read all this here. I just start from here. This is better because they actually talking about the same thing, similar, but it gets a little deeper. Say, you were both partly right, for the Arabs were among the first conquerors of the land, but you are wrong supposing the Moors and Arabs to be altogether different races. It says, when the Arabs came into the land, some of them took the plains inland, continued their wild, wandering, idle style of life, half predatory, half pastoral. Others took up their abode on the coast and became more mingled with the people of other seafaring tribes. And I'm mentioning this because we talk about seafarers and people that traveled. And now you understand, if it's talking about the same people, you know, and they were the ones who were moving, so to speak, around the globe, you know, that go back to the question the brother asked me about Mansa Musa, the possibility of them being able to do this, because there were tribes of them that was on the sea, you know, and those who are called Phoenicians, when you get into North Africa, they became known as Punic, you know, people, Carthaginians, you know, these are all different affiliations for one group of people, you know, that basically broke up in various tribes. And it is through these people that mostly the exploration of the West began, is what I'm getting at. Outside, I'm talking about in the modern time. It says, but where did they get it from? Because we know the Egyptians was the one that taught people how to build ships in the first place. But that's a whole nother measure. So it says built town, and they came last to be known as Moors, a term that a lot of people hadn't become familiar with until I started saying it. But it says, from which part of the land they dwell in was known of old by the name Mauritania. But the Aborigines, until you Lucian, it says the what? Sir asks Flagon, moving his pipe. Aborigines, the original inhabitants of the land. Ah, I see, returned Ted. Them, as was at the weary beginning, just order Adam and Eve, like exactly so far away. You know, the European be talking crazy back then. But it says, well, I'm not quite sure, replied Lucian with a laugh, that they came here immediately after the time of Adam. But at all events, they came before the time of an authentic history for our earliest historian's record. The fact that before any other nation invaded the northern shores of Africa, the country was in possession of a very warlike race, it says, who, although overcome and driven from the plains by more civilized and better armed nations that successfully attacked them, remain in the fastness of the Atlas Mountain, absolutely unconquerable. And the descendants of these original inhabitants basically goes into being known as the Moors again. But my thing is they telling you that no matter how much war was going on, our people was our people over there. This is two sources saying the same thing. So that stands to say that those who come later behind that will have to be no more than our people. Now, this is coming a little closer, you know, into the area what we're dealing with here, because they're speaking of the indigenous Hawaiians, and they call them by the same name, Maori, or Moors, or Moros. These would have been the people that come out of Southeast Asia, as the brother was talking about earlier. You know, there's a connection to these people. They even use the term Tamor, which is similar to the term Tamaray down here at the bottom. You know, and they talking about the indigenous people. So anytime you talk about indigenous, you're always speaking of the people that's there from the beginning. So if they're saying these people are indigenous in Hawaii, then you got the people, you know, and I didn't read all of it, but that's what it's talking about here. You know, then you have the same people in Africa being indigenous to Africa, and they the same people. And then when you get over here into this particular area, who do you think they will be other than themselves? You see? Now, okay, now that we established that particular drawing there, I'm going to give you this here so our family can get it, because you got to go step by step so that our people can really see what's going on here. I'm trying to pull that map right there. That's a whole nother, that is some, that's relevant history right there, but I ain't trying to go there right now. I want to go here because it was a particular drawing in here dealing with.
Everybody who watching and people who be watching in the future when I share this video again, y'all like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Oh yeah. Here it go right here. This is what I wanted to pull up right here. And this is an Arab source right here. You know, it was speaking on from the Muhammadan accounts. It would appear that Shem is the father of Eastern nations, right? It says the Hebrews and Persians and Arabians, also the Greeks and the Romans. Ham, from the Muhammadan annals, was the common founder of the southern nations, the Moors, Africans, and Indians. You see what I'm saying? So when you get into this area right here, the people that are being called Indians, you know, they are from the same stock. So that right there should be enough to the common mind to be able to see exactly what's going on here, right? But I'm going to show you something else too that's very important, you know, because we have to know these connections right here, family. Not that one right there. Now that we established we're dealing with the same people, where's that thing at? I got so much up in here, brother. I want to show our people. Here it is right here. This is one here as well. And this is a breakdown. This actually comes from the Prehistoric Nations. This is an excerpt from that book. And it says, Bokart derives the name Mari or Moors from Mahur. No, ancient and modern Britain is what it's from, pardon self. It says Bokart derives the name Mari or Moors from Mahur, the West, by Ellison, H, a common custom in Oriental language. Mars was often called Mavurs. If we will put U in the place of V, because U is interchangeable with V in language, they anciently written as one letter, and we have Marurs. But the Romans had to give the name of every people certain terminations as I, S, and A. Hence they called these Mari. It says another tribe near the columns of Hercules called Marusis. I am of the opinion that both these people took their name from Matzer. They're really trying to say Mitzrayim, you know, in Egypt, basically is what he referred to. And so did Mars and Mahur the West. It is generally conceded that the descendants of Ham settled all North Africa. And as they pushed toward the sunset, which is the furthest west, they gave their leaders name to that direction. A tribe of Germany was also called Marsi. So they're showing you that even in Germany, and we got pictures that we can show you, you know, of the original Moorish Germans before the Europeans even got there. You know, they paying homage to German kings that were Moorish. When I say that, family, we're talking about the description that they're given. It says, as the death and ruin are results of war, so we have Moors, death, a deity among the ancients, Latin, Old Persian, Mar, Sanskrit, Zen, Meri. So they have many different words. Murdan, Marira, to die. All of the certain words are the same origin. Mar, to deface or injure. And this is one of the words that you'll hear brothers try to pull from the Kemetic dictionary. And it says the northern tongues of Europe, especially the Anglo-Saxon, are fond of the W and often change the M to that letter. And that's how they come up with these deviations from the original word. So words change form and definition, but that still don't change the fact of who these original Hamites was. They used the term Hamites. We know we talking about the original people. This is another one here talking about the people of Ham. I'm using this terminology for the people that deal with the biblical narrative so they can better get an understanding. It tells you that Ham here, the remaining son of Noah, had 4 sons. Cush, the father of Nimrod, progenitor of the Babylonians, Mizraim, who peopled Egypt, northern parts of Africa, Put, who was the ancestor of the Moors. You hear me say that all the time. And Canaan of the Phoenicians and the Canaanites. So all of these would be Hamitic. This is why I keep telling our people the original Arabs or the original people that was called Hebrews, and so when you want to talk about them migrating all the way over here, you got to acknowledge that they connected in a link. Now, this is a excerpt from the original Bible, the Geneva Bible, when they talked and they basically spoke of Micah, who they called the Moorish state, a prophet of the Moors. This is the type of language they were using in the Bible before the King James Version now. Prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah, spake to all of the people of Judah, the Moors, saying, thus says the Lord, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps of a forest. Micah showed the wrath of God against Jacob for idolatry. Moseroth was built by the Moors in the desert of Paran. You heard the brothers arguing about Mount Paran, and so you already know this. It just goes on in here. The Moorish War of Adel in Africa, Mount Moriah, here adjacent. They connecting all of this, to more. This right in here too go all the way back to the 1600s, family. This particular source here, actually beyond the 16 to 1599, because that's when the Geneva Bible was written. Around that time, the affiliation of Moors given to the successors of Muhammad, pagans, Christians, and Jews. You know what I mean? Who extended their empire to North Africa, South Europe, and the islands of the Mediterranean. The Moors gained the highest reputation in both arts and arms of the nations of the East. So you see how they come across from Africa and go up into Europe, and now we can see how they get, their root in, like we were speaking of the Germans, and these different people, the Vandals, even the Visigoths. Some of the original Visigoths were Moors before the Europeans. This is just the way, this is old information. A lot of people ain't never heard this. So it say they gained the highest reputation in both arts and arms of all nations of the East, and the mechanic and the fine arts, especially sculpture and painting, were in a very low state in Europe when the Moors turned their attention to them and cultivated them with great success. The Moors had founded in Africa the Empire of Morocco, which was governed by a viceroy named Muka. They talking about Musa, basically. Mansa Musa is who they talking about. General, he sent out his general Tyriq in the Spain, who in a single memorable engagement stripped the Gothic king Rogerio, it says, of his hair and crown, and subdued the country in 713. And it goes further into the kingdom. So this is showing how the influence comes into play. So now imagine the people now being exiled in 1492, because that's when the empire fell. By King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, there was a declaration that was given out called the Black Code Laws. I ain't talking about the ones over here. The ones over here was based off of them. It's called the Code Noir. Black codes here was 1865, but the Code Noir was written early in 1685. So this is a little bit after everybody had been expelled. But if you go into the document, they tell you, they refer to the Americas as their island. you know, and this is what they saying now. And they saying anybody that wasn't baptized in the Christian faith, Catholicism and all this right here was considered heathens, you know, and if they get caught reading this what's gonna happen to them. If the slave masters who got them get caught teaching them how to read, they gonna do this. They couldn't marry, they couldn't be out the door at a certain time of night. And so basically these are the same laws that became implemented in the Black Code law when they so-called freed our people. They're supposed to be free now, but then they created the 13th Amendment saying, okay, nobody can be put in slavery unless they commit a crime. So slavery was never abolished. You know, the stipulation was already there. And so now anybody that had came into what they call bondage over here, they was under these Black Code laws. So the same Black Code laws that was implemented in 1685 coming from, you know, the directive of those, you know, in the Kingdom of England, so to speak, they remixed them in this time. And this is what we dealing with right now. When they say you can't be out the door, I don't know about nobody else, but in my city and every other city I know, it's a time where European can be out the door past a certain time at night. Police won't mess with them. But our people be out. The police come up there, they go to riding up, jumping out on them, telling them they out the door for the curfew. All that's part of the Black Code laws. This so-called marriage life.
When I was younger, they used to run up on me. That's at 11 o'clock. You know, about 11 o'clock, they running up on me.
Yeah. And now, for those who think I'm making this up, let me show you this so they can have a reference of going to this. Y'all need to read this stuff, family, and you'll see everything dealing with slavery and what's took places over here with slave is by design. You know, the Code Noir, right here, family. The Code Noir. This is the original Black Code. And this is why we say black, according to science, mean death, because they use this law to kill us off under the title black. You see what I'm saying? This is the code that they would govern the so-called black people by. See where it says that Code Noir initially took shape in Louis the 14th edict of 1685. It says, although subsequent decrees modified for a few codes provisions, the first document established in the main line for policing slavery up until 1789. So in 1865, when we were supposed to be emancipated, so to speak, right? They emancipated the people in word, but created these special laws. If you look up the word Black Code, they'll tell you that this was created to hinder people who was just freed from slavery, from being able to ever really get a foothold. So we free you, but we created a law to constrain you so you really can't do nothing with that freedom. Go ahead, brother.
No, I say I'm not agreeing, and I was telling people that in like other times they started calling us like mulattoes, mulattoes, and they called the native, they called the indigenous and the African Negro,
Yep, and I'm finna, that's what I'm getting ready to get into in a second. I'm just trying to show them, you know, what happened, because all this stuff happened by divine, we ain't gonna say divine design. You know, we know slavery is a divine issue, but I'm talking about with the European, they did what they did strategically. Because just like in 1492, when they expelled the Israelite people, or the Moorish Jews, the Philocious Sephardim originals, and then the Moors that were Muslim, just like they did that, bro. People don't know. They worked their way all the way up into these different Muslim caliphates. They started knocking down the caliphates after that. And then when they knocked them down, then they removed the title Sultan. That's why you don't hear no Muslims saying they sultans and stuff like that, you know, as a ruler. They become kings and all that. That's when the European infiltrated took over, you know. So now, like Morocco had a sultan, but what they call their ruler now, king. There is no sultan over there. So this is what they did all the way up until 1928 when they overthrew, you know, the last ruler of Turkey. You know, and once they did right there, then they come 1948, created the state of Israel. You see, the one that was basically at war, you know, with the people that's there. And these were the Khazars that created that, which is called Zionism. So all this stuff I'm showing you, these events coming from 1492, these people strategically did this stuff, coming all the way up to now, and they still doing it. So it's the very first article expels all Jews from colonies, right? In other words, they talking about the Moorish Hebrews, the Moorish Israelites. It said they play a significant but hardly dominant role in the Dutch colonies of the Caribbean region. It says, but were not allowed to own property or slaves in the French colonies. The edict also insisted that all slaves be instructed as Catholics and not Protestants. So now you see how Christianity got pushed on our people. So if they had to have this pushed on our people, what did we believe before we accepted that? You see, it says for the most part, the code, and you can tell that there was a difference in the teaching, because we know the Israelites or the Jews mostly believe in the Torah. So what does the church have against the Torah if they know that the Old Testament is part of the Torah? Unless there were teachings that were being taught there that didn't basically elevate them, and they didn't want the people that were studying it to know themselves by what they were studying. So it says, for the most part, the code concentrated on defining the condition of slavery, passing the condition through the mother and not the father. This is the same thing going on right now when you deal with this child support stuff. You see what I'm saying? They just say man is the donor. And so if the woman, if she want to be mad at you, she can use the system to her advantage, so to speak, not knowing that this is all a part of the system of slavery that was basically created to keep our family divided. So make her think that she have power. That's Willie Lynchism. It says in establishing harsh controls over the conduct of those enslaved. Slaves had virtually no rights. They considered property, which is what we are considered also under the new black code. You consider property. Anything you own is considered property. It don't belong to you and you don't belong to you. So it says, though the code did enjoin masters to take care of the sick and the old, right? I'll just give you one or two of these because I ain't going to read all this stuff. I just showed you this so you'll know where we go into this. Look at what they say here. Listen to what they say. When they first open up, it said, Louis, by the grace of God, King in France and Navarre, to all those here present, and to those sound like the Willie Lynch letter to me, the way they opening this up. It says, greetings, in that we must also care for all people that divine providence had put under our tutelage. And we have agreed to have the reports of the officers we have sent to our American islands studied in our presence. You see it? Now they way over there, in France and England, and they claiming America as theirs. That's a real history lesson for people to understand. It say these reports inform us of their need for our authority and our justice in order to maintain the discipline of the Roman, Catholic, and Apostolic faith in the islands. It says our authority is also required to settle the issues dealing with the condition and quality of the slave in the said island. It's the same thing that Willie Lynch them were talking about. We desire to settle these issues and inform them that even though they reside infinitely far from our normal abode, we are always present for them, not only through the reach of our power, but also by the promptness of our help toward their needs. For these reasons, and on the advice of our council, and of our certain knowledge, absolute power, and royal authority, we have declared, ruled, and ordered, that the following pleases us. I'm going to give you the first two, and I'm going to let y'all do your own research because it's too much to read. And I want to move on to this indigenous drawing, but this is very important that we go here because it lays a premise. It says, Article 1, we desire and we expect that the edict of 23rd of April, 1615 of our late king, our most honored Lord and Father, who remain glorious in our memory, be executed in our island. This accomplished, we enjoin all of our officers to chase from our islands all the Jews who have established residence there. So basically, how they was cast out of Spain, now they saying they want them to chase them away from America, basically. Do the same thing that was done over there. It says, as with all declared enemies of Christianity, we command them to be gone within 3 months of the day of the issuance of the present order, at risk of confiscation of their persons and their goods. In other words, we find them there, we coming to get them, we're going to enslave them, everything they own belong to us too. It says, Article 2, all slaves that shall be in our island shall be baptized and instructed in the Roman Catholic and Apostolic faith. Again, if we had to be baptized and taught in this particular way, then what were we before the baptism? So we enjoin the inhabitants who shall purchase newly arrived Negroes to inform the governor and intendant of the said islands of this fact with no more than 8 days, or a risk of being fined an arbitrary amount. They shall give the necessary orders to have them instructed and baptized within a suitable amount of time. They was laying sanction down on these people. Is Article 3. We forbid any religion other than the Roman Catholic and Apostolic faith, it says, from being practiced in public. We desire that offenders be punished as rebels, disobedient of our orders. We forbid any gathering to that end, which we declare to be conventicle, illegal, seditious. Don't that language sound familiar when you go to thinking about J. Edgar Hoover now? What they say our people were doing? Oh, that's sedition. And subject to the same punishment as would be applicable to the masters who permitted or accepted from their slave. We're going to give you one more just for a bonus. They said no persons assigned to, and this is Article 4, no persons assigned to positions of authority over Negroes shall be other than a member of the Roman Catholic Apostolic faith, and the master who assigned these persons shall risk having said Negroes confiscated and arbitrary punishment levied against the persons who accept the position of the said authority. And they even refer to, forbidding the subjects who belong to what they call Reformed religion. And they go in, like I say, they talk about marriage and how they don't declare nothing through the man. It all come through the woman. If the woman is basically free, right here, when they talk about the freedman, the man, the child is never free through the man, basically. They forbid weddings, between the slaves, all types of stuff. These are the black codes of 1685 that most of our people ain't never heard of till now, that gave birth to the black codes of 1865. So I go to the word, and I'm gonna go to the, I want to give you the definition of the word Indian too, as they gave it originally. Let's see. Code. Let's see. 1865. Okay. There it go right there. Look at what it says. Now, this is the black codes in the United States. Black codes restricted black people's right to own property, conduct business, buy and lease land, move freely through the public spaces. A central element of black codes were vagrancy laws. This is very important. The word vagrant is basically a vagabond. You know what they say Cain was? You considered a criminal. Do you know under the vagrancy laws you was automatically considered a criminal if you was poor? Why? Because you see that, ain't that's crazy? You was considered a criminal just because you were poor. That's why now our people that they know don't have the means to sustain themselves economically, they automatically call them criminals. So when they say, oh, the criminal's doing this, the criminal element here, criminal there, criminalize this criminal, they're talking about our people don't have the means to economically sustain themselves. You automatically considered a criminal under these black code laws. So it says states criminalize men who were out of work, who were not working at a job whites recognize. So even if you had a job, you still you still was considered, a criminal. So that's what they implemented in 1865, as soon as they so-called liberated the slaves. So once you understand this right here, family, and you look at what's being put into play here, now you understand that no matter what you call yourself, what group you're a part of, what organization or fraternal sorority or whatever, you still consider property under the United States law. And all of this tie in, this is why we got a lot of our people now going toward trying to be native, and some of our people are native. I showed my native roots. But the problem is that the Native American system that is set up by the European is set up under corporate governance, which means that those Native Americans still have to answer to the United States government. You see, because they're on the federal charter, and then like the religious organizations, they on the state charters. Any business, them little groups, Masonic, they on the state charters. That's the only difference between the charter that a Native American have and the charter that different groups have. One is issued as a federal charter and one is issued as a state charter, but they are all still subject to the jurisdiction of the European. So now when you talk about the indigenous people, which are us, the indigenous people, once you realize that that's who you are and everybody embrace that reality as a collective, now these people got to do what Prophet Noble Drew Ali said and take up some water. He said, we are already home, the European 3,000 miles from home. You see what I'm saying? So once you understand that right there, now we can get into the definition of the word Indian real quick. We know who our people talking about when we say Native American.
Yeah.
We know that's us originally, but let's go into the definition of who they call Indians, right? Where one aspect they say is relating to India or its people, customs and language. India, right? Now this is actually the way they used it back in the day, Indian. It says relating to or denoting indigenous people of North, Central, South America, especially those of North America, right? A native inhabitant of India. That's going back into Southeast Asia and all that right there. A person of Indian descent. There's some overlap between the Indians of that area of the Indus Kushite Valley civilization, who I'm talking about, the original Kushites of India. There's some overlap between them and the people that are over here as well, because they're the same people. We're talking about indigenous people. It says a member of any of the indigenous people, North, Central, South America, especially those of North America. So what is the origin? Who originated this term? It's important that we go. I know you know all this stuff, right? You done did the research already, brother.
No, I mean, I'm learning some stuff from.
Because we got to be thorough if we're going to give our people some insight. It's like John Blumenbeck was the one that actually gave the name, what do you call it, black, and so forth and so on. See, the term Indian in reference to the original inhabitants of American continent is said to derive from Christopher Columbus. So if he gave them that name, because he thought he was dealing with the people from India, right? See, he said a 15th century boat person, some say he used the term because he was convinced he had arrived in the Indies, Asia, and his intended destination. Why? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I always ask that, right? Because the Asia they show you now, like you say, like the Jackie Chan, the Koreans, stuff like that. They don't look. They look nothing like the original or even the native. Like, yeah, they don't even look nothing like this. So how would you automatically accidentally mix them up?
That's right, and we finna show you the indigenous people, because it's indigenous people, groups of them all around the world that's still there. They don't get a lot of light on them because of who they are. But we're gonna show it to you. I'm gonna show it to you through the rest of my DNA information I was putting out here. But notice they say, why do they call it Indian, right? It says the word Indian came to be used because Christopher Columbus repeatedly expressed the mistaken belief that he had reached the shores of South Asia. Convinced he was correct, Columbus fostered the use of the term Indios, originally person from the Indus Valley,
Okay, can
to
I ask you a
refer to
question
the
on that?
people of the New World.
Can I ask you a
Go,
question on
go
that?
ahead, brother.
So because I heard at a one point of time that like East India is actually like a new modern name. It came like later on. Is that true?
Well, well, what it is actually, the name truly came from here, Indios, which originally a person from the Indus Valley. You see what I'm saying? This is what he was thinking, and he had a reason from thinking this, because evidently, probably some of the people that he seen looked like the people that was from over there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with
That
that.
he seen before, and so they saying he did this adamantly, basically, repeatedly. He did this. So Christopher Columbus is the one that coined this phrase. You know, so the people call themselves by, you know, the terminology that they use. You know, they had a whole bunch of different terminology they use. You know, so it goes on like right here. It says, do Native Americans call themselves Indians? The consensus, however, is that whenever possible, Native people refer to be called by their specific tribal name. Just what I said. In the United States, the Native American has been widely used, but it's fallen out of favor with some groups, and the terms American Indian or Indigenous American are preferred by many Native people. And the reason being for this right here is because they're doing the same thing we saying about the word black now. They're not accepting the titles that people put on them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, when you go into all that language and you keep looking at everything being said, you know, they talking about the term Indian country, you know, designated place boundary line appeared first in the proclamation of 1763 of the British Edict prohibiting the survey of purchase or settlement by colonists of lands of West Appalachian Mountains. You know, see Britain laying down the law way from over there in the Americas. It says, what does Indian mean in Latin? Inhabitant of India, South Asia pertaining to India. Noun, adjective, Indianus, from India. So, you know, we see in all these different measures that they all saying, you know, they even saying, is it rude to say Indian instead of Native American? American Indian, Native American, or Native are acceptable, often used interchangeably in the United States. However, Native peoples often have individual preferences on how they would like to be addressed. To find out which term is best, ask the person or group to whom they refer. So a lot of, you can see it's a conflict with these terms, even Native American and Indian in reference. They just want to be called by their tribal name, you know, which is nothing more than right. You see what I'm saying? So now I'm gonna go over here and go into my DNA information here. And this is talking about my indigenous American heritage. And they give a whole map on this stuff. And it makes sense now that you understand the history that was just given is going to fall into play. So it said 1.3% of my DNA is indigenous, right? Since the time immemorial, humans have called the Americas home. It says from the wind-battered islands of South Patagonia to the gently rolling tundra, it says, of the North American Arctic. Humans may have lived in North America alongside now extinct mammoths and giant sloths as early as 23,000 years ago, if not before. But DNA evidence suggests that major migrations into the Americas from the Northeast Asia began around about 16,000 years ago. This is very important too, because when you say Northeast Asia, And the migration pattern, the further east you go, you end up over here in the Americas. You see what I'm saying? So basically what ended up happening, they're saying that the people that migrated, began 16,000 years ago, and they came out of these areas, right? It says, now this ain't no light mulatto people, though. These are indigenous people that's like us during this time frame. It says, and it was these later migrations that gave rise to the most present day indigenous American ancestry. Despite drastic population losses over the past 500 years, resulting from colonialism, the genetic legacy of the first peoples of the Americas persists to this day. So if it was people over here 16,000 years ago, then what? That right there automatically debunked anything talking about Columbus discovered America. We already know that because people was here when he got here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
then it goes.
And people, and they still, some places like here they'll teach people that he actually came to North America when he never stepped foot in it.
Never set foot in here. Now watch this. It says explore genetics of the Americas. Now they say Nueva America, right? The genetic landscape of the Americas was dramatically altered over the past 500 years. That's just 500 years out of the 16,000 years. It says following waves of immigration from Europe, Africa, and Asia. You see, millions of indigenous Americans perished as a result of exposure to disease and genocide at the hands of the European colony. You already know they talking about all the stuff they put in them blankets. It says, but the genetic legacies of these early Americans persist to this day. Extensive mixing of historical populations called admixture resulted in new admixed genetic cultural identities that define people of the Americas today. And so when you're looking at that mixed breed that you see now, the mixed breed ain't the original breed. And so the mixed breed has begun to receive precedence over everybody else. That's why they kicked all the so-called black Seminoles or the Moorish Seminoles out their tribe. They had to do that in order to get funded. So what we look like trying to trace ourselves back to them for a percentage when they come from us. You see what I'm saying? Through an admixture. So it says, explore the average ancestry breakdown admixture in 23andMe customers in Americas below. They have what they call Native American, and they show them Southern European, Northern European, Sub-Saharan African, right? So they deal with this color code right here. And they show, look at what they say. It says, these pie charts highlight the genetic diversity within these countries. For example, 23andMe customers from Belize typically have some European ancestry, some Sub-Saharan African ancestry, and some indigenous American ancestry. It says 23andMe customers from Grenada typically have primarily Sub-Saharan African ancestry with only small amounts of European or indigenous American ancestry. It says 23andMe customers also from the USA and Canada typically have primarily Northern European ancestry, while customers from Argentina and Brazil typically have primarily Southern European ancestry. Customers from Mexico and Peru, among a few other Central American and Western South American countries, tend to have a higher levels of indigenous American ancestry than customers from other countries in the Americas. You see, which makes sense, but now it talks about the first Americans here, and it's going to show you the migration pattern. It says, explore the genetics of the Americas, the first Americans. Over the past few decades, researchers compared the DNA of indigenous Americans to populations from around the world, confirming the genetic link between the native peoples of Northeast Asia and the Americans, right? Over 30,000 years ago, distant ancestors of the present-day indigenous Americans began to form distinct genetic population in Siberia. Many generations later, their descendants mixed with another population with East Asian ancestry and eventually reached Beringia, a land bridge that once connected Siberia to Alaska. They likely remained isolated in Beringia until a massive ice sheets, it says, covering North America began to recede towards the end of the Ice Age 14,000 to 17,000 years ago, allowing passage into the Americas. But these ancient travelers were probably not the first humans to set foot in the Western Hemisphere. Do you hear this? Even though they are back during that time, they're saying they are probably not the first to come here. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
There is evidence that humans lived alongside, again, now extinct megafauna in North America as early as 23,000 years ago, if not far earlier, but their genetic relationship to modern day indigenous Americans is unknown. And so they show that journey. They actually go in the other map, it'll show how they come out of Africa and then they go up through here. You know, they say they come from the Sudan. That's how my DNA migration pattern went. Come up through here and went over here. That's where the indigenous aspect come from. But then we know some of our people was took from here and brought over here as well. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
That's the history. I say people. We always talk about coming from Africa here, but we never talk about coming from America, going to Europe and Africa and places like that.
that's right. That's the part they ain't getting a whole of the story. Now watch this. This is where it get deep because they go to naming tribes in a little bit. It says explore the genetics of the Americas, a genetic tapestry. Around 15,000 years ago, early ancestors of present-day indigenous Americans pushed rapidly south along the Pacific coast, reaching the southernmost edge of South America within a few hundred to a few thousand years. But a simplistic migration story cannot fully explain the rich diversity of indigenous American DNA we see today. Genetic evidence points to an early north-south population split, resulting in the gradient of indigenous ancestry throughout the Americas. Most indigenous American ancestry comes from this early migration. But there's evidence for at least two later migrations, one contributing to the gene pool of the Athabascan-speaking people found across western North America, and another contributing to a large part of the Inuit, the Aleut. I know you're familiar with some of these Indian tribes here. The Yupik people, it says, who live along the Arctic and the subarctic shores of Canada, Alaska, and the Greenland. Their genes tell a story of migration, adaptation, and diversity that is still being written today. So they go through the Siberian, Eskimo, Aleut, the Athabascan, the American, which is the indigenous American, indigenous South American, East Asian, which see now where's the connection even with the definition of the name India, because most of the time when you look at the definition that we seen, they talk about the East Asian. But again, you're not talking about the people that you see today. We talking about the indigenous people. You see what I'm saying? So they showed their most recent common ancestor crossing over and basically, coming into the northern and the southern region, but they extinct that particular ancient one, right? Then they talked about the living tongues. This is where they go deep into the people that's over here. It says, explore the genetics of the Americas. Living tongues researchers estimate that fewer than half, possibly fewer than third of roughly 2,000 languages spoken in the Americas at the time of the European contact are still spoken today. And we don't know nothing about none of them languages. 2,000 languages, and all we know is a bastard language they call English, pardon self. Many of the surviving languages are spoken by only a handful of people, although indigenous people across the Americas are mobilizing to preserve their linguistic heritage. Some indigenous languages and language families still have over 1 million native speakers, including Mayan. It states now, think about this right here. You was asking about the original alphabet of the Mayans not long ago. It's people that's speaking it, but to me look like they holding it sacred and they ain't telling nobody. And they ain't wrong.
Yeah.
They ain't wrong if they keeping it to themselves. You see what I'm saying? It say Aztec in Central America. It say as well as the Guarani, the Aymara, the Quechua in South America. There are fewer native speakers of indigenous languages in North America than Central and South America, but a few languages still have many native speakers. Navajo is spoken by nearly 200,000 people. That's a lot of people. While Cree and Ojibwe, it says each spoken by around 90,000 people. That's a lot of people too. So they keeping this language among their culture. It says indigenous languages have been preserved in the names of many North American cities, states, animals, and food, which we've seen that. A lot of the names of different places. It says, for example, words like Saskatchewan. It says Cree, the Cree. Now, you know the Cree connect to the Seminoles and the Creek Indians, right? It says Alaska, the Aleut, Seattle.
Hold on, say it again. You said the what?
Yeah, there's a connection between the Cree Indians and what they call Seminole. That's what the term Creek.
Oh yeah. I think
They
I
call
did.
them Creek
I
Indians.
know about the creek. I thought they were two different tribes. But I ain't even know.
Yeah, there's a connection between the Cree and the Creek.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but it goes on too. It talks about the chipmunk, the Ojibwe, the persimmon, the Virginian, and this is the main most popular one right here, where they come up with the 5 civilized tribes and where they begin to learn from the natives. You know, these are the ones, the Algonquin. You know, these are the ones that trace their origins to various indigenous North American languages. So when you look at all of these different tribes, notice they're in South America, notice where they are in North America, and there are still connections, you know, between all of them, but it goes deeper than all of that. It says this here. It's the last one. It said, explore the genetics of the Americas, respecting tribal autonomy in the age of genetic testing. In the 1990s, university researchers obtained blood samples from the Havasupai people of Arizona, to study the genetic factors associated with the tribe's rate of diabetes. Without informing the Havasupai, it says researchers at the university used genetic samples for unrelated studies that had nothing to do with diabetes research. When the Havasupai learned about the misuse of their blood samples, they sued the university and asked for their samples to be returned. This and similar incidents have sparked significant progress in how researchers approach tribal genetics, largely through informed consent and collaboration with indigenous researchers. With this history in mind, 23andMe strives to respect the cultural, religious, and national autonomy of indigenous people around the world as we work to provide you with information about your unique ancestry. But they basically, you know, tell me that my DNA pretty much a portion of it, a percentage come from, you know, some indigenous people. So my thing made me go look up who these people is. You know, I had to do some research, and it's still more research to be done. But this is what I came up with here. I was actually getting ready to debate the brother. You know, we already went over these things, but it's important that we always emphasize certain things so that our people can really get it that didn't get it. You know,
Yeah, right.
I was
Correct.
actually starting with that was the history when I was talking about the Moors going into Spain, General Tariq being dictated under his bro Mansa Musa. But this is the key. They weren't paying attention to this when I was showing this in the previous measure. But this is from Spain here. If you notice, look at the detail. They have the feathers in their headdress. They actually have a turban too, with the feathers coming out of the turban. You can see that there, beloved brother.
Yeah, that's exactly how King Palatine.
Yes, sir. And then you see the feather waist garment. That is a consistent wear of the people. And this actually started in Africa. They wore this stuff in Africa. You know,
That's King
before.
Palatine right there.
Matter of fact, Shaka Zulu was dressed in the same type of garb. This same type of garb here, brother. You know, see where it says Indian Maori? And you see they got the little head crown of feathers on. They got the little waist garment right there with the feathers. This is actually, and I was saying I made a mistake and said Geronimo. Well, I did correct it already, but this is
That's Chief
Montezuma.
Powhatan. Chief Powhatan, right?
Montezuma.
Oh, that's Montezuma.
Yes, sir.
Wow, he looked just like Chief Powhatan on one.
Yeah, because they wore the same thing.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna show you
yeah.
another picture of Montezuma where it show you his name now. But like this is another one. See, now notice, look at these people. That's the European over there. It says America. Now I know you got a European standing out here bearing up some type of standing apparatus with the brother on top of it. You know what I mean? So they wasn't running nothing like people think they was.
Oh yeah,
Not from the way that looked.
yeah, I seen that picture before.
And you see this one here, it says America, right? But you see the brother, you know, and I can see why Columbus, if they seen him being depicted this way, or think that this was what they would call East Indian, but still, that's Cushitic. See, you got the turban on with the feather coming out of it, feathers around his waist here.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of people mistake them feathers for fringes.
Oh my goodness, they should know better than that. Them feathers right there, the same feathers. See, they got Africa over there. No, that's America, pardon self. And they got feathers right here. And that's the feathers in the turban again. They were wearing turban and feathers. You know, that's their main dress. And this is from many different areas. So now look at this. This is a picture from Italy. Notice they got the feathers in the headdress and they say blackamoor, right? They say this is a bust of an American Indian now. This is in Italy. And this one too was found in Italy. See the Italian blackamoor bust of an American native? Same thing. Head dress.
Yeah, that's fire, you know, right there.
That's crazy, ain't it? Now, this book, which I was actually reading an excerpt from, the one that I was breaking down the British, the German, and the Moors. This book, Ancient and Modern Britain, bro, you got to get this. It's a PDF, but you can get it in book form too. That thing there, five. This and Prehistoric Nation, bro, you got to put them two books there in your library. Because, you know, this here, in this particular book, they tell you who all the people, the Merovingians, he tell you them was our people before the European. He tell you the definition of the terms white and black, how black represented a status of the low class no matter what color you were. So it's based on who was on top or who was on the bottom. So if you was on top, even if you was melanated as ever, sun-kissed as ever, you was called white. You see what I'm saying? And if you was on the bottom, you was called black. You can be a European, but you was called black. You see what I'm saying? So this is why we know that they brought that same concept over here and used it as a status. You know, that's why they call themselves white and us black. But then it says Indian of the Western Hemisphere in Ancient Modern Britain by David McRitchie, and that's page 374 of the book. In 1676, the native races of New England were spoken of indifferently as Indians and Moors. And our British Indians are also remembered as Moors. So this is all before they start talking this Indian stuff that Christopher Columbus come up with later. It says the term Moor was applied to dark skin, brown skin, and reddish brown skin people who were not only indigenous to Europe, but to the West and North Africans. You know, there he goes, even the black Indians of the Western, you know, and that's, they talking about America,
man. And anybody that's want to ask, because I know y'all might be asking, because y'all see the MUUR. I'm pretty sure you're going his, because I've seen it before. You're going his YouTube. He got a video breaking down, why they spelled both different ways and how they correlate with each other.
Well, now, this was a good Moorish brother who got his website. He actually clipped this, but I got the book, Ancient and Modern Britons. You know what I mean? So I read the whole book. This is just an excerpt he put there, and we give honors to that brother too. You know, that's just another way they spelt the word Moors.
Yeah.
You got people, you know, they spell it so many different ways. But truth be told, the word actually derived from the word Mari, you know, which means Moorish gods. So there they are again, right there on the throne. Now, if you notice something, you see he has the jaguar here, right?
Yeah.
He has the jaguar skin on him. You
Yeah, I
notice
see.
that? And if you went back to my 23andMe, if you notice up there, they pointed out in the indigenous people right here. Watch this. I don't know if you've seen it. You probably seen it, but I didn't really emphasize it then. But I'm gonna pick it up now.
Yeah. I'm about to say I ain't see it because I ain't hear you speak on
I'm gonna
it. But,
show you. I didn't really go into it, but I'm gonna show it to you right here on the map they had. They had a little map down here in the last portion. Not right there. Hold up. Here we go, right here. You see they got the jaguar over here, the cougar.
oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I do see it. Yeah.
and that's connection. This is South America here. So, you know, that's just something I wanted to add in there because it's worthy. And a lot of them wore that. That jaguar was wore even in ancient Kemet as well, though. That go back to the Indus Kushites. You know, we can show you that on a lot of the priests in ancient Kemet, where they wore that same animal skin. So now we come over here. This is a Moorish brother. You see, you got the turban on. You see, you got the fez. You know, you can't deny that that's our people. You know, here's another same picture I showed earlier, the other beside it. I actually had it 2 times. Then they have who they call the Incas.
Yeah.
If you hear a lot of Latinos, they refer to the Incas. You know, they love to talk about that. You know, and this is actually a picture in reference to dealing with Florida too. But you see it right here, same thing, same feathers, same feather up here on the head. This was a universal feathers here. And you're going to see the style of the crown slowly start to change, you know. But this is also another one. This is showing, you know, when the Americans, they came, look at all the different, you know, look like veneration going on over there, look like warfare and everything, like somebody done conquered something, pouring out libation. That's what I see right there. But you see that same headdress, he just got a shroud around him there. You know, this is an actual book where some of these pictures come from, America in the New World. That's the picture I showed earlier, the one you say I seen before. But if you look here,
What was that book called?
America in the New World, you can find that online too, the whole PDF.
Okay, yeah,
A lot of these old books, brother, I'm gonna show you how to get to them in a second. How I be finding all this stuff online. You know what I mean? And it's hidden in plain sight, really. So they're showing a depiction here of the original inhabitants of Paraguay. It says from the Book of America. They mentioned them in the DNA stuff when I was reading early in the beginning. It says the latest and most accurate description of the New World containing the original inhabitants and remarkable voyages thither, the conquest of the vast empires of Mexico, Peru, and other large provinces and territories with atlases by John Ogilvy. So this is 1671. You can go and look at the original pictures of the indigenous inhabitants. This is an excerpt from it. None of them look like these old so-called natives. Look, they go to Jaguar again. You see it right there?
Yeah.
On the head of this.
And that's a what? That's a ram?
Yep, that's a ram in the right here. Yep, a ram, not a goat. They go
And
actual Jaguar right there.
is that a what you call it?
Look like an eagle on
Parrot?
the
Is that a
head.
parrot right there?
Look like an eagle here. Yeah, that's a parrot right there.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so they was definitely dealing with nature. So you see they got that same crown on. You know, them turbans, the jaguar, you know, like
Can
come
you
on, bro.
elaborate a little bit on what that headdress like really is?
Talking about the feathers?
Is it like a crown or?
Yeah, it's a crown, but the feathers go all the way back to ancient Kemet, to Ma'at, actually. You know, if you notice, there are pictures of Ma'at where they look almost similar to a Native American type of picture. You know what I mean? So the feather always represented spirituality, you know, and the different colors, you know, represented the colors of the rainbow, different vibration. You know what I mean? It's a lot of sacredness dealing with, you know, colors deal with a lot in spirituality, represent colors of stones, you know, and so forth and so on. But it mainly deal with vibration and spirituality.
Now, would the chief would his look different or?
Well, in certain tribes, the chief would always have the most grandiose expression of the feathers. You see what I'm saying? And then you'll see
Yeah, it
somebody that
makes
may
sense.
have one or two. You know what I mean? And they gain these feathers when the crown become full. You know, that's a whole chief right there. You feel me? Almost like when people go through degrees in certain measures and they get, you know, black belts, white belts. You know what I mean? You got all them belts, you know, but in this aspect, they got feathers that they put in their crown that represent, you know, how much wisdom they have. So if one had a full head dressed with the feathers in it, you already know this is the wise one. You know what I mean? This is the one that got all the wisdom. You feel me?
Yeah. Now, what would you said? So you what would you say that they originated from? But you said they were Kushite type people.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, basically, coming out of Kush, that's the region of Sudan.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? And that's why, like when I said when they showed the migration pattern coming up out of there, you know, a lot of these things can be traced back to Sudan. It makes sense too because you got to
Yeah, I mean,
remember.
you know what? It does make sense because when they explain over here, well, we got certain type of pyramids, but what they call, they don't really call pyramids, but you know, it just
Yeah,
is. You can tell it's based off of the pyramid design.
there was one pyramid design that was used by everybody in the beginning, and that was the step pyramid style. Everybody used that in the beginning, and then the smoother version. The first pyramid was a step pyramid,
See,
and
that's something I really didn't know right there.
yeah, yeah. The oldest is a step pyramid, you know. And so once you know that, then you see that everybody perfected the building of the step pyramids. Sumerians went on to build there, and then a lot of the Sumerian pyramids look just like the ones, and that's Cushitic. You talking about Sumer, you talking about Kush. So when you go into the history, and you know that the Kushites were known as the Metal Kushites, and from them came the Indus Kushite, you know, who inhabited India. Now these are the original Kushites of that land. Now we understand who the original Aboriginal people were and why they keep saying East Indian or Southeast, you know, these different people. Even brother E, when you go into the history and not Gaston Maspero, he mentioned it too, but Gerald Massey in his book when he was talking about the Mari, I got a lot of his stuff. He talked about the Mauryan dynasty of India being the Moors. You see what I'm saying? Not only him, but Ivan Van Sertima, you know, the sister that be in the book, but I forgot her name. It's on the tip of my tongue right now. But she put something in there, you know, and brother Renoka Rashidi, you know, also demonstrate that particular measure. But nevertheless, the Mari people are more, you know, was a name that has been used all the way around the world. At some particular point when it comes to the indigenous people, I don't know why that name more pop up. Even in Sumer, they call them Amorites, the Mari people. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so that's why I be challenging them guys. I be like, okay, let's trace that name that you call black back beyond 400 years. You can't do it. But I can trace the root more all the way back to Kemet. I can trace it to Sumer. I can trace it to India. I can trace it all in all these places these people call Moors by the authors who exposed the history. You know, so if we was trying to do it like that right there, and we say, all right, let's see who can trace there further back, them dudes that calling themselves everything else will lose every time. Because they can't trace none of that stuff they be talking about as back as far, you know, as the root M and R. You know, from the land being referred to, Ta Mary, 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 M and R. When you remove them vowels, that M and R is left. But that's why they call the Indians Indimorians. So Lumarian, when they use that terminology, that's a whole nother measure that deal with the light beings, you know, that become they call them Elohim, Netaru, Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it. So America here, this is another picture. Look at them. They got that's straight Moorish garb right there. You got the feather, you got the turban on, feather and the turban, you know. Then you see
do you have any information on? Because I've heard people say this. That I've heard some people say that they have a theory that Egyptians came over and named America and named it Tamerica.
the you know, you know, I see brothers that come and say, but when they say that, they saying that the Indians, basically those who come through Native America, is the ones who come over here and basically name the land to America. You know, and I would say this to that. I know that the European took from a lot of other languages, like the word America actually has an Arabic root to it. The word Emir, Amer, which is often spelled that way in Arabic, you know, but the E is often replaced with the I, and it means commander. You know what I mean? So a lot of people would go into the name as reference to dealing with Emery Vespucci. This is where they say the name America really come from, Emergio Vespucci. So America and that word mir and Mary just has a universal ring. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. You know, just like we say Ta Mary is what it is, and you constantly seeing this name pop up all over the place, referring to the land or referring to a man. That should tell somebody something. Why is it that everybody want to put that mirror in the name? You see, all the way down into America.
Yeah, yeah. He
You
said,
see,
"Yeah, I
why
feel
does
you."
this name
And
still
I
pop
don't
up?
even think they even know what they be saying. Like when
No,
they
they don't.
actually,
Some of them.
yeah,
They just trying to tie words. But what I'm saying is this word mir, a Mary, a Mari, a mir with the M and R, it's hard to shake this word in history. It pop up everywhere, bro. Almost like when our people using the word nigga. That word seems like it don't never get out of style. It ain't never got old. I pray that, you know, it comes some point where people forget about it. But I don't think it'll happen in
it's
our
been out since the
lifetime.
way. It's been out since, but they flipped it around with the '60s and '70s, right? Late '60s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now they talk about the Australoids. And they actually had in my DNA, they mentioned that too. Man, that thing is extensive. It go into the history of everyone. The Australoids of America, they come from that same area we was talking about. Southeast Asia and all of that there.
So when they say astronaut, do they have anything to
People
do
of
with like
Australia,
Australia? Okay.
indigenous aborigines
Because
of
you know
Australia.
what, when I was studying, because I have a whole like page on Papua New Guinea and stuff like that. When I started seeing these people, I said, man, they look like they look like us.
Yep, they look just like us, bro. You know, that's one right there. See, it say emblem of Africa over here. And then this one say emblem of America. See, she got the jaguar skin on her.
Oh yeah, see it.
So they all dealing with them animals, man. Our people will submit. I got pictures of the Moors over there with lions standing beside them, bro. Almost like they got a dog on a leash. So that's another the emblem of Africa here. See, you got the same thing. You know, they got a little bit more elaborate. They covering themselves a little bit, but they still got them feathers on with them turbans coming out of the brother and the sister. You know what I mean? This is another one. See, that says Indy Morian, just like I was showing you. This is in another picture from Spain. See, they got the feathers around their waist, turban up here on their head.
Yo, do you see the color?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's red, white, blue.
Yep, yep. Even them colors right there really come from us. That's a whole nother measure right there. See, they said the more. See the ship right there? Same thing. Head, feathers, same thing here. Now, see Montezuma?
Oh yeah, Montezuma.
He feathered up. You heard him say from the halls of Montezuma to the
Yeah.
shores of Tripoli. They were telling you right there in the song. Look, they go to Bay of Tripoli right there. Notice they say Libya because they know that these brothers, the Moors, have that blood from the Puttites in them. You see? And the time you talking about Puttites, you're talking about Libya. And this is just a modern drawing of it. But I actually have the map, and I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't go all the way into it. Look at this map right here, just to mention it, because it's still in the same vein of what we're talking about. Like I told you, man, we don't even be playing with this history, brother. You already know how we get down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We gonna bring the receipts every
I
time.
can learn and study and teach all day, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. We gonna bring it. We got to bring the receipts, cause if we don't, they gonna say we made it up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And sometimes they still do. I be like, man, y'all trying to say I was like 1,500 years ago, or 15,000 or 1,000. See what they said here in this particular map? They're actually talking about the Fuller and Put. The Fuller are Fulani people, in North Africa, the Fuller tribe, that they talking about in here. We already know these are the same people. They even talking about the Sudan people, right? But what I want to really show you, because a lot of people don't know how people migrated from here. My ancestors migrated from in here, Nubia. Some of them also went across the Sahel, all the way into Mauritania. Okay, it says Yemen Jews, Philocious, and Berber, and Moorish, and Negro Jews, right there. Them the people that they was throwing out. Remember I was reading the Code Noir?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, them the people they were throwing up out of there. Get them up out of here. And they called them a part of what they call the heathen religion. Anything that wasn't Christianity to them Europeans, you was considered a heathen in what you believe. So I just wanted to bring that up since I talked about that. But here is an actual picture of some of the brothers standing up here. You can see an admixture in them, but you can see that complexion still dark.
Yeah.
Look at them them feathers they got on. They dress down like they, and that's a modern picture. So that dress went a long way, bro.
I ain't got an X when you smoking in that plate.
Yeah, you ain't got to ask. You already know. Here's another drawing here too. When it goes into the term, it says Moro, literally more, commonly used when referring to the ancient Indians of the valley and the village. So this word more again was used in reference to the Indians, right? A Moro is a heathen, unbaptized Indian. It says expressions in the time of the Moors in Tempio de los Moros, Cundo Morisco, La Morisco, are frequently heard when discussing the history of the region. With the words of Riano and Rinna from Ray, king, or people, refer to the Indians who were born in the time of the Spanish vicegerency. And that's talking about those people that they call Moriscos and all the different names they give them. And so after a while, you can see now why people look at these people as East Indian, because this is basically the look of the people of East India. But you can see the modernization of the crown is changing now, starting to look more like the Native American crowns that we see. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's when my brother was talking about when the Asian actually came over doing like the railroad. A lot of them they started replacing a lot of these Asians and Siberian looking people with the original people.
That's right. Now this is the Yamase War right here. You see the Yamase War?
Oh yeah, yeah,
This is 1715 painting. Now look at that joker there. If that ain't Moorish garb, I don't know. He got the turban and the fez and everything the Moors have out here fighting in the war. You see that? With the Indians, as they would call them, because they was Moors. Look at the European stretched out over there with his head off. Know what I mean?
yeah,
Look at that scimitar up right there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So when you look at this stuff, man, this stuff still exists today. Look at the complexion on the sister. See the headdress she got on?
Yep.
Look, kind of like Michelle Obama a little bit. But
Yeah,
see that queen there?
that's pitch black too.
That's a picture right there. And she from Africa too, by the way.
Oh, the one on the left.
Yes, sir. You know, so I was just pulling a lot of them going, doing these the Dahomey. You know the movie they made Woman King about?
Yeah, I got a presentation on that talking about how did the homie
Yeah.
it's
You see
now
that?
actually called the Benin.
Yes, sir. That was their original name. That's right.
Yeah.
You see what they dressed in though, right?
Mhm.
See they got the feathers coming up out of there. But I'm gonna show you. I want you to see the picture of the brother when they had him up here, Shaka Zulu. And I want you to see how he was dressed. If you never really paid attention to it. When you look at the images of Shaka and they depict him, this is just a drawing here, but you see he got the feathers here,
Yeah.
got the jaguar skin around him. Look at them feathers right there. So when they was depicting them, so you can see the connection in the dress. Trying to find that other one. See that there? Like he got the turban tied into the garb that he wear.
That's it. Yeah,
You
that's
know
from
what I
the
mean?
movie Zulu, right?
Yep. Yep. Original movie Shaka Zulu. And so, like when you see this, like I mean, you can't get around it though. Like I said, you got the red, white, and blue feathers up there.
Yeah.
You know, the jaguar panther
He down there
skin.
look like Captain America.
Yeah, pretty much. With that shield with his head. I didn't even think about it like that, but you sure right. Yeah. So you can see that jaguar panther skin is what his turban was made out of, but you see he got them feathers, bro. So for anybody that don't know no better, brother, we done showed, in just a small amount of time, the connection to Africa right there. You know what I mean? And they depicted it the same way. Everybody got the feather with the turban on their head. You know what I mean? So like, and then when you come into the modern time, this is what I want you to see here, though. I want you to see the modern expression of this demonstration from people who are also in the area of what they call here it is right here. Let me get it. There we go. Because I actually went to dealing with a lot of comparison. We actually went over this. That's actually showing the full migration when I was telling you that, the DNA of a maternal mother coming out of here.
Yeah.
See how it's showing them coming out of the Sudan region?
Mhm.
This is from my DNA chart and they migrated over the Arabian Peninsula. Same thing them brother was just debating about. And then a group went over here, straight over into this area, and one group went down here. You see what I'm saying? But they came out of Africa. So it all makes sense with everything that I showed now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at it from that special aspect, and I read all this here, so I ain't got to read that. I just want to get to these other last little pictures. Like I was showing, this is another portion when they were saying that this is the Austronesian. You was talking about the Australoids and all of them. This is 1.1% of my ancestry is also Filipino. Austronesian, they said. Many indigenous Filipinos, including the Ada, the Batak, Namnawa people, alike descended from one of the earliest dispersals of modern humans out of Africa. However, most Filipinos can trace their ancestors to a much more recent and widespread migration of Southeast Asian seafarers related to the indigenous people of Taiwan. Today, this genetic signature called Austronesian, meaning Southern Island, is common across the islands of Pacific from the Philippine Sea to Hawaii and can be found as far away as Madagascar. So these are your indigenous Austronesians. That's one in the modern time right there. That's a brother and that's a sister. Ain't nobody finna tell me that these people ain't related to us, bro. You feel me?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Then you see he got a little headdress up there. And this is my father right here. I just put him in the mix, when he was younger, just comparing the phenotypes, And my father, now he's old, you're going to see my father. Because, this, when you get into talking about Filipino, Southeast Asian, a lot of people don't know the indigenous Filipino people, that they exist. That's why they get it twisted when we go to talking about this stuff. Oh, man, them a whole total other people. I'm finna show you something. Watch this. When you get into the indigenous people of Filipino. Watch this. I just showed you that right there. Look at that, brother. You see how hidden we are as a people? That's crazy, bro. We can't make this stuff up. All the way up
Is
until
that the
modern
is
time.
that in the
Like what's his
Negritos?
name? Huh?
That's in the Negritos?
Yep. They call them Negritos too. They use that terminology, but they have a lot of them have tribal names. Look at that, bro. And the lighter skin ain't no different than light skinned people that's born amongst us, bro. Them is our people right there, bro.
Yeah, most definitely.
Them our people.
Yeah, that's most definitely.
Mine is that a contradiction, bro. They can't get around. Look at that. They still got that Asian like look that you normally see in Chinese people, but you see how dark their skin is, how melanated they are.
Yeah.
And my father, when he got up in age, now that he up in age, I'm gonna show him to you in a minute. You're gonna see he look a little bit, you can see Asiatic come up out of it, So these the indigenous people right here. They don't talk about these people. That's why our people so ignorant and don't know no better. Because they think that when they see somebody Philippine, or Asian, that these are, the Chinese people you see. Look at them people.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is
Like,
like,
bro,
man.
we can't make this up. Now look at what it says. African tribes of the Philippines. So our people need to do that research, bro. And this is where I got them pictures from. See them? There you go again. They got them feathers in their headdress. They got different individuals. But like, bro, it's an admixture going on over there. But them people, our people there.
Yeah.
All up, down through there, bro. And these fools will say they ain't got our phenotype. Fool, we the original phenotype. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
They got that phenotype from us.
I hate when they try to act like, and that's what I was saying earlier before we got on. They kept trying to make like when they talk about Africa, they want people to believe that every African look alike with just that wide nose and that dark skin. When the same people are older than them, and the same people are Asiatic African people.
Yeah. And bro, that's why I'm doing this right here. I'm removing all doubt. Because, you know, and you see, I put my DNA up here. In order for me to be related to some of these people, I expect some of them to look somewhat like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so like, look at that, bro. We can't get around it. Look at that. Indigenous people of Africa. So, like, out of all these people, bro, they can't get around it. Now, watch this. Because it get greater. I'm almost done, too, beloved.
Okay.
Right here, I was showing them this picture. I actually have a picture in here that my mother is actually next to this sister
And
in
then,
the group.
I heard they had the statue at first did look like the one on the left, but then they made the one on. Then they ended
Yeah,
up
they
just
stole it.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they stole it from, you know, they're trying to show low key the Moabites. You know what I mean? And I got a picture. I actually had my mother in here next to her because I could see a similarity between her and my mother. I was sure, remember, did you see when I showed them this in Africa?
Yeah.
You know, this is right around, this is like 20, 30 miles. I go up here sometime to the beach, Saint. This is actually the same area where they sunk the replica maybe about 2 years ago of the
Oh,
pyramid.
you said this Africa? I ain't
Now I
never.
was saying that the look of this, I was, if
Yeah.
nobody didn't know it, they would think that this was Africa. I could shoot a
Yeah.
movie
Oh,
on
okay.
Africa
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
And I was showing them that it was, the continents was connected at one time. So when we look at the east coast of Florida all the way up the east coast, if you look down here at this particular area that would have been connected to Africa here, you can see, you know, the same type of terrain basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
All you
With
need, and it,
that type of grass going through the water.
yeah,
Even.
all you need is some lions out there, and
Yeah.
they got some look way, and bro, this run miles for miles. You hear me?
Yeah.
Like along the
And I'm glad
coastline.
you said something about the animals too, because I want to see people need to look up the Columbus Exchange because it shows you how they was taking animals from here and taking them to other places. So
Other
not
places,
so animals that's like it's certain animals that's here that's not original here.
they're
So it
not
would make
original.
sense that it's animals over there that's not original over there that
Not
actually was
original
over here
there.
that we
Like a
just not telling.
lion really ain't a lion is not really indigenous to Egypt.
Yep.
They come from another part of Africa. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though you see a lion depicted in hieroglyphics, you don't really see no lions in Egypt like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just like the
And then they extinct animals like the buffalo and stuff like that.
yep, the Zoloft. Have you ever seen the Zoloft
Nah, I ain't no
or the
seen those.
Zolo? That's
Uh-uh.
that's basically a dog indigenous to this area, but that's what that's what they look at for Anubis. They actually got dogs like that. I show them to you. It come from America though, you know. So here it is. Here they call it Zolo for the low, but this is it. This is the actual deity dog that they be depicting in Egyptian. You know,
Yeah.
that's Anpu,
Okay.
Anubis. You see it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep, that's what Anubis, and it's a couple of more Egyptian deities that they have that come from Americas that they have being depicted over there. So that can show back to the proof though of what you were saying. Maybe they took some dogs back to Kemet with them.
Yeah.
That had to be a very long time ago. If this dog is indigenous to here and they have them over there in the pyramids,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So that in and of itself, that's how a lot of people do their research based on things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this dog is indigenous here, but they on the pyramids, and we say we um calculate this to be, let's say, 35,000 years ago or 3,500. You know, but that mean that they had to come over here in order to get one. If it's indigenous to here,
Yep.
that would be a proof right there in and of itself. So like, man, people don't be doing. They don't be digging beneath the surface, bro. They reaping a scanning way, like my Grand National Secretary of the State always say. You can't really find nothing doing that. This was also a Seminole brother. I forgot his name. Ibrahim
Yeah,
something.
Abraham. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a Seminole chief that was Muslim originally too. This was a Moor that they had over here in the West, and they was taking him through the circus. They call him a Moorish giant. He used to be in Buffalo Bill Wild West. You know, they love traveling circus.
Yeah.
You know, they see stuff just like they did with our sister Sarah Barkley. Put her up there in that dang on cage because of how big her booty was, and put her on display, cut her genitals out and her breasts off. You know about that?
No, I ain't.
Yeah, man. She was from a tribe of Africa too. But they took her over there, bro. They got a whole story about Sarah Barkley. That's the first time our
Okay,
sister
sir.
was
But I
sexualized.
ain't really know what happened to her. But you talking about the one that they got naked, you know, with the.
Yeah. She was the first sexualized sister over here. Just in the West in general. They took her around after they got done. They killed her. They got stuff on YouTube like
I ain't know
movies.
about the killing part. I know about the circus part.
Yeah. They cut her genitals off, cut her breasts off. After she passed, and basically made stuff out of them, put them up there as a spectacle. They got videos depicting it like a movie. Well, I forgot the name of that movie. One of the movies, you can see it when it come on. They actually got the whole movie on there, bro.
Yeah, 'cause I
You
want to
know,
speak on. I want to speak on more about we were talking about the slavery cover. We were talking about how.
say the slave.
Yeah, the slave history part.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I'm
yeah,
finna get into that. I'm finna
yeah.
get
No,
into
no,
that.
no. I was just saying that I'm gonna do another show on that.
Oh, another show.
No,
I
no,
got
no, 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 not JoJo. I mean, you can show that. I'm just talking about something else. I'm saying
you. Okay,
I'm about to do another show on I want to do a show on the cannibalism part of it.
oh
Yeah, people don't really talk about that part. So
yeah,
cannibalism,
man.
like
They were eating our
using
people and
shoes,
everything.
using shoes for skin and
Made
stuff like
wallets out of that, turn of skin,
that. Yeah.
all types of stuff. You ever read the book 100 Years of Lynching, brother?
No, I ain't really.
You got to get that book, brother. That's every newspaper clipping of lynchings that took place. Man, it was a whole bunch of them, brother. They tell you details. Some brother was snatched out of the jailhouse, snatched out. They were burned in the streets. One brother say, pardon himself. One brother say, you can have everything, yeah, just give me water. After they had burned him up
Uh,
so bad, and yeah, it's crazy. Like they got history of people that might have been in your county, in my city, of slaves that ran away.
yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
I forgot his name. I think his last name Green. I forgot his name, but he was gonna start another revolt because that Turner from
Denmark VC
yeah. I think his last name was like Green
or
or something.
Gabriel Prosser.
Yeah, Gabriel. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Gabriel.
yeah, I read about
The
them
one
brothers years
he
ago.
was about to he was about to start a rebellion, but one of the slaves, some slaves told him.
Oh yeah. He was on the
What happened?
same path. Nat Turner,
Yeah,
Denmark VC, Gabriel Prosser. Them dudes like in the same vein. They tried to say, I heard people say Noble Drew Ali was a descendant of Nat Turner because he had some Turners in his family.
yeah. I mean, he actually, from what I read, hope that Lee was down in here in Virginia for a while.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, man, was a real Jew, man, that people looked over, because they're ignorant and don't know no better. It's the first man to ever teach your people. You know how that man was teaching on stuff we talk about now. He was doing what Sebi was doing 100 years ago. He got locked up just like Dr. Sebi.
Yeah,
And they want to use that to mark him. But to me, that was just confirmation of his prophethood. Because every prophet is often called a magician,
yeah,
a soothsayer. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's what they were trying to do to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But yeah, he had came up with healing and all this, consciousness and eating right. That man was teaching that brother 100 and some years ago, when our people was, they was asleep back then. They was asleep. That man was before his time, and some of the same stuff he prophesied came to pass. That's what I keep trying to get them to see. This man
I'll be
prophesied.
right back.
Huh?
No, I said I'll be right back. You can keep talking.
Okay. So yeah. For the people that is still viewing, dealing with the modern tribes, the Lenape and the Nanticoke, these are also these are the Moors that are recognized on the rolls. And I'm finna show y'all something I didn't show in the debate that I was getting ready to show. With that other brother that was gonna body it. Because everybody like to say it's all about scientific literacy. They say the Moors don't exist. The Moors ain't a people. But this right here that I'm getting ready to show y'all finna remove all doubt. And they gonna also consider the Moors as real people. Not only as real people, but they're gonna connect them to the same people that y'all just seen us show you just a few minutes ago. The name Indian and Moor has always been interchangeable. Before they were known as Indian, they were known as Moors, the natives. But watch this. Because see, y'all think I be playing when I make this stuff, these different PDFs and put them together. Y'all think that we just be coming, just talking out the side of our neck. But watch this. Hold up. Give me a second here. Let me see. Now, I know good and well they trying to hold my little file. Let's see. If it don't open, I just copy it and paste it. Rome they ain't finna stop this information from getting out here. Sometimes my computer be acting crazy. I know it be them people. They even got me shadow banned and all that there, but they can't stop it. Because everybody that's meant to be reached gonna be reached. Okay. See, this is talking about the Native American tribes and the Indian history in Mecca, California. See, that's one of them names that come forth from those who were basically in the tribes that were Muslim. Long before the term Native American or Indian was necessary, the tribes were spread all over the Americas. And before any white man set foot on this land, it was set up by the forefathers of the bands we now call Sioux or Cherokee Icarus, right? So they go into all the history. They talking about the Mayans, some of the same stuff we basically was talking about. Now look at the pictures here. All of a sudden, they don't change the color. These is who they call Native Americans now. And that's who many of our people think are the true Native Americans when they're ignorant and don't know who they is. See, all they got to do is put a whole nother picture up there and put some Europeans up there. And now all of a sudden they the true Native Americans. You see? So I got some more. I got another link I'm finna take y'all into though. I'm finna remove all doubt. We're gonna get into some scientific demonstration. Watch this. That's why I was finna body bag that dude. I think who it was. What's his name? Top Cat or whatever. Whatever you say his name was. Now I was finna body bag it with this information here. This was gonna be the one what I say to hit him up with. But nobody can deny this. And y'all remember Kemetian is the first one that showed you this. Even Unc West and them got to bow down to what I'm finna show y'all in a second. And next time somebody tell y'all ain't no such thing as a Moor and Moors don't exist, get it right. This is the CDC right here, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, right? And they got the records of people that's in the system. And notice the name Moore is here, right? This is the code system name for this particular individual, 9/26/2008. Moore, right? Now watch the connection. When you go into the race and ethnicity, you see what they connect the Moors to? Abenaki, right? Absentee, Acoma, Afghanistani, African, same people who they tried to connect them to in the past and say that Arab have a Moorish connection. African, African American, Adagux, Agurga, they got all these different people that's in the system basically because the CDC keep record of people that they take, you know, blood from, so to speak. Notice they mention see this here? Alaska native, Alaska Indian, Alabama Creek Aleut. This is you seen this in the DNA information I was putting out here. You see, Aleutian Island. They connecting these same people to some of the same people that was found in my DNA pool. Remember these here, the Algonquins. This is scientific information, family, on record. American Indian, Alaska Native, Andalusian, which is also dealing with the Moors again. These are all codes that are dealing with these people. Apache, Arab, Arctic. So when you pull up the name Moor and you go into the ethnicity, that code name Moor is connected to all these people. And you wonder why. Look at that, Asian Indian. We was talking about that earlier. Wonder why I keep telling you the word Moor is all over the world, family. Now, this is one of Unc West's favorite go-tos. The CDC is telling the truth. The CDC ain't gonna mislead you. The CDC is the only people that got the record. Well, the CDC also mentioned the Moors. So now the question I want to ask him is, do he believe that the CDC is pseudo now because they mention a Moorish people and connect them to the Indians, the Arabs, the Syrians, and all these people? It was just going from the name Moor. Now, I ain't showed y'all the other portion. Watch this. It get deeper than rap. Watch this. I hope East still here right now. I hope he done came back. See that right there where it said Eastern tribes? If not, I'll go back over it with it. Check this out right here, family. You see that right there? This is coming up on it. Let me go back so they can see it. We can't make this stuff up, family. See that right there again? More. This is mentioning all of the specimens that they received from different people of nationality, different races in their research. Eastern tribes. Let's go into it again. Look at what it say. First thing it say right there, when we open up Eastern tribes, look at what it say. American Indian, race and ethnicity. So there's a connection between the Eastern tribes and the American Indians, right? And then back here again, look at all these different Eastern tribes they mentioned. Look at this. We can't make this stuff up. Tanika, Wakama, all of these are different races and ethnic groups. Let's click on more again. It's going to take you back to where you was. You know, so for those of you who thought that the Moors is extinct and they don't exist, Moor is still recognized along the lines of race and ethnicity, family, by the CDC. Big facts. This is where I was going to body bag that cat at. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm back, bro.
Yes, sir. You see this, what I'm showing them right now?
I just jumped back on.
Okay. Now, I'm going to run it down again. Unc West always like to talk about the CDC. And you know, they this and that, they found this and that there. But do he know that they recognize more as race and ethnicity? Now, when you click on the race and ethnicity that's connected to the Moors, look what it pull up, beloved. This is what I was gonna body bag your boy with. But you can't get around science. The Europeans ain't finna put nothing in no authentic website that they consider bogus. So they mention all the people that's connected to the Moors, the Abenaki, Absente, the Shoney, Afghanistan, African American, Adatics, you know, and this is after you click on more, right? And that ain't it. Watch this. Watch this, good brother. And the list goes on and on. The Alabama Coshata, Alabama Creek, Alabama Corsarte, Alcanu, Alamo Navajo, Alaska Native, Alaska Indian, Aleutians. You seen them talking about their Aleut in my DNA information, right? I can't make this stuff up. This is connected to more. There go your Algonquian. Remember we were speaking on them earlier. This is what they say the 5 civilized tribes and the knowledge that they have coming from them and the Icarus Confederation and all of it. All of these different tribes of it. Look, Andalusian in them. You know, we can go on and on and on. And the more we go, the Apache, Arab, Arctic, they connect in all of these to more. So this confirming the information that I just went over. See Asian here, Asian Indian. And all this is just from clicking on the name more. I also have some Bahamian root in my DNA as well. So you're looking at all of this here, bro, you know, and we all know that these are real tribes. This is the CDC website. This ain't no bogus website. Look up here. Black or African, Blackfoot tribe. You know, these authentic tribes. Some tribes I ain't never heard of, but we in there. You know what I mean? Canadian, Latin American, Indian. All that came from me. Again, going here to the Moor. Clicking on race and ethnicity. So the Moors is a race and an ethnic group. Not only that, but here's the bomber right here, E. Click on Eastern tribes. Look at the first thing that came up on the Eastern tribe. American Indian. Connected to the name Moor. When you go down here, here go the tribes again. Abenaki, Alaquin, Appalachie. Apache part and self. Man, they got all of the Indians up in here. And if you keep going on and on and on again, that's crazy. That's insane.
That's it.
You know, in an authentic website now, you get down here again, look at it. There they go. So we done killed that. Can't nobody never tell you that it ain't a people called Moors no more. Especially Unc West. Because if he loved this CDC, like he said, I wonder if he gonna say that's pseudo. You know, since he swear by the CDC and being able to detect diseases and, you know, all this stuff here in people, where they recognize the Moors as a race and a nationality. Ain't nobody never showed this information. They better stop playing with me, man. They think I just be talking. And a lot of this stuff I be saying off of my head. And so when I don't show them the information, oh, you done made that up, but everybody else can talk and not show nothing. You know, I'm still showing and they'll still try to say I'm pseudo because I showed it to them. Cold-blooded, ain't it?
Yeah, I know that's crazy.
All this stuff I'm putting up here, if somebody else, if a European came and showed the same thing, they'll believe what the Europeans say. I'm gonna show you something in a second.
Yeah, it's like they don't believe that their own brothers can do the research.
Exactly. Like we ain't worthy to do our own. That's another thing. We ain't worthy to do our own research. If the European didn't do it, then it ain't right. Now that's what let you know them cat be gone. It's just a random website here that's showing the different ways, and see how these Native Americans depict it now. See how they depict them?
Yeah,
The more mulatto or the mixed breed.
Yeah, that's some Siberian type too.
Yeah, it's more the mixed breed. They ain't the original Siberians though. They more of a admixture. You know what I mean? Or the European and the original people. That's what's going on here. You know what I mean? As you can see the names that was in the CDC.
Actually, even worse.
Right. You can see the name that was in that CDC: Abenaki, Alabama, Algonquin, all the names that was there right here. Majority of them Indian names that was in that CDC website is found right here. But they ain't talking about the original Moors. These are the ones that's holding the place of the original Moors. That's why they call it a reservation. Same thing a reservation do, you know, like watch this. They had the Delaware.
Oh yeah, I want to ask you questions about reservation, right? Because from my understanding of reservation, right, aren't they tribes that got defeated and they gave up and
Facts.
Okay.
Facts. In debate, that's what I'm saying. When they say reservation, a reservation ain't nothing but a placeholding apparatus, bro. So if they let you establish your reservation, that's just like a hotel room. You just it's a placeholding apparatus. You hold in that space so nobody else can't claim it.
Yeah.
And that's what they doing to our people. And so now you got to go to their reservation on the corporate governance when the land it belonged to you already. You see how twisted they got our people? And the only way you can claim it is under the name Moor.
Yeah, that's why I was telling people about the Black Wall Street. And what happened is, the European came and took the land and made a deal with the Native Americans and said, you can have this certain amount of land, we will take this. Then they turned around and sold the land to the black people that had brought their business over, and it was called the Indian Land Grant.
Facts, bro. Like they can't get around this here, man. Like we on their head. We on their head now. You can believe that. I'm trying to find that one document I had in here with all of my let's see. I think it was in here. This is the one I put it in. I put everything in here. Oh. Let's see. Still didn't pull it up then. Yeah, we ain't playing with them. Okay, where is that? Not that one, not that one, not that one. Let's see, was it this one? I done opened up so much stuff in here since I pulled it up last. Oh, this was the one that I had actually put together. In the original, in the debate, this is my debate document I had started. I actually started out with Kemet, showing my great-granddad. That's my great-granddaddy right there, Ramesses III.
Say what? That's crazy.
Yes, sir. That's who they say I descend from. Usurp Ma'atre. Yeah. See, I'm gonna put this out. Remember I was telling you this feather come out of Kemet?
Yeah.
See that? See the sister got it there? Yeah, this was my debate slide right here, but it had a little more.
Go for your DNA?
23andMe.
Okay.
And bro, they pulled up my cousins, a couple of people. That's the only scary part about it. Like, literally, I didn't even give my grandmama my father's side of the family, and it pulled my cousin up on my daddy's side. Ain't that crazy? That he had took the DNA test, basically. And not only him, but a couple of people I've been knowing from my city, and I've been around them for years, but didn't know we was some kin as well. You know, that took the test. See, I was gonna put all this in there, show them who Ashoka was. Noble Ali talked about Ashoka. If you look up the history, he established the Mauryan dynasty over there in India. He went to Buddhism. He established Buddhism over there, but he was called the Moor. Ashoka was a Moor. See how they tore his face up right here in India? This is a more good picture of Ashoka right here. That's that big nose they talking about. And how you know they come out of Indus Kushite Valley civilization, look at these people. That's an Egyptian shinty that a Kushite actually has on here.
Yeah.
Straight out of Kemet, bro. That letting you know they come from the Sudan. See the fez on their head? That's crazy.
When I was reading, I started telling people like Kush actually influenced a lot of stuff in Kemet.
Well, what it was is actually the other way around, because they come from Kemet. Well, you know, I know you.
Hold on. Maybe it was new. Maybe it was new.
Yeah, you talking about the southern Kushites. I know what you're talking about. You're right. The South. You're right. A lot of the people, Egypt was established by the people that come out of the Sudan. You're right. Yeah. I was thinking you talking about Hindu Kush.
Oh.
But it was that's why I said it was the other way around.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Kush like on West Sudan and stuff like that.
Yeah, you talking about the original Kushites that these came from. Watch this. I just typed this in, gonna bring up a whole group of people. But the depictions of them anyway. You're gonna see some of these old. I got some of them in my slide. Come on, bro. Them the original people of India right there. You see that? You know a sister that look like that sister. I do.
Oh yeah. With the
I know. That cat there look like T-Pain. But yeah, you see all them features there, bro?
Yeah.
He's the original. As they like to call him Naga. You know. Yeah, they think it's a game. Our people is indigenous to the planet, bro. I keep telling them. The original gods of the earth was us. And these teachings come from the temple of Amun-Ra too, bro. Look at that. Now that's an Ancient Mama Buddha statue. That's crazy.
Yeah, that look like the dude like somebody like a sugar. What we call a Big Mama.
Yeah, look like Big Mama. Yeah, but you can even see the way she got her hair did. Come on, bro. They better stop playing. They think it's a game. I'm gonna show you because you know I descend from some of them people too in my DNA. I got some of them in me too.
Wow.
You see that right there? Look at that. You know good and well who that is. That's crazy.
So where's the main place of your DNA say that you come from?
The main place, the 85% of my DNA is broadly sub-Saharan, West African, Mauritania, Fulani, Senegambia, basically the Moors.
Oh, okay.
It's Moorish, but it come out of this. They showed the connection to the Sudan, the woman in the Sudan. You see what I'm saying? The man and the woman. I'm gonna show it to you. It's actually in this slide right here. I'll show it to you because I'm actually supposed to be doing a presentation, you know, on this thing, but I'm in it right now. See this right here, for example. I always wondered if you look at the shape, I can see my shape. The shape of my chin is definitely connected to that pheno. That jawline there.
Oh yeah, I see it.
I can see that. You know what I mean? I always knew I had a unique shape, so to speak, a round-like shape, but that's pretty much coming from these people. This is the Khmer of Cambodia, because they say I got their bloodline in me too. I can actually see some little connection between this guy right here and the self. In the eyebrow area up here, the way that nose coming down right there, even the mouth a little bit. You see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that's one. Everybody that I found them saying I connected to, I basically did research on. This is the one I was telling where I had my mama here, and I was saying like how she kind of her shape of her face kind of favored this sister a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy, bro.
And lips kind of do too.
Yep, that's what I was saying. I was like, man, dang, her lip, the way it's shaped there, the eye up here, the way her face shaped, that's crazy that phenotypes can go that far. You know what I mean? And I was showing here when you was talking about the different names. See, this is the exotic map that you hear a lot of them talking about, and notice they got names on them. A lot of these names come from the people that was here, the natives. Moab, Morocco, Greece, Tripoli, in Palestine, man, Jerusalem, Egypt. You know what I mean? These are names, Atlantis, Sweden, Mexico. So a lot of time when you have them Shriners be running around here talking about they traveling to Egypt and Mexico, a lot of it be code words speaking on these different names that's written on the exotic map. You know what I mean? So yeah, I even went into the history of the Mauryan Empire here, dealing with the name of India here. See, it says inhabitant of India, South Asia, pertaining to India 1300 from the late Latin Indanus.
Yeah.
India Aboriginal inhabitants of the Americas from 1553. It says a noun, and it goes to break it down on the India again. I was going to go into that with the Mauryan Empire as well, of the people from India. See, Maurya.
Oh yeah, more yeah.
Yeah, that's the name. That's where Ashoka was from that I showed you earlier. He established that dynasty. I showed you this one already. Now, this is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He said this garb that was given to him by the government. And you know good and well the United States government ain't got no garb like this.
Yeah.
He was talking about the government of Morocco when he went into the East.
uh,
And see, look at the garb that he got on. They talking about this is Mason. It ain't no Mason and no Shriner dressing like Prophet Noble Drew Ali. This comes straight up out of Kush. This is from the Merah Kushites. You see the feather coming out his head dress?
yeah.
Then he got the sash coming down right here. All the way on his body now. Same thing here. Come on, bro. See the brother by now. He got the same head dress with the feather coming out of it. Straight from Kemet and Kush. They better stop playing. And if they really think it's a game, when Noble Drew Ali went over there to Havana, Cuba, this is his boarding information when he was selling from Cuba back to the United States, bro. He represented the Moorish Americans as a nation. I'm the first one to put this out in the public. Even the Moors in the temple was like, where you get that from? No, y'all supposed to be adepts, hiding everything, huh? Look at what they call him, bro. See it right here, Drew Ali,
Yeah.
Norfolk, Virginia. His date of birth on there, bro. And this is Kirkland Bay. So this corresponds with this history. When we say he went to the Pan American Conference and he got off the ship, Kirkland Bay was his interpreter. He got his date of birth there too, bro. You know what I mean? See what it say he arrived at the port.
It was in Norfolk.
Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
up there
sir.
with the beach. That's up there with the beach.
Yes, sir. See that there? January 25th, 1928, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Facts. When he went over there, he didn't represent the Moorish Scientific. He represented us as a nation of people. And then I went into it. You see, I already had that here. That's why I was able to go to it. This is some of the garb that the brothers used to wear in West Africa too, that the European later tried to adopt. These are all brothers from, West Africa. I was also showing them, because they be talking about that. This is a indigenous Arab right here, bro. when Noble Drew Ali asked the question, who guard the holy city of Mecca to keep the unbelievers away? Angels. What's the modern name for these angels? Asiatics. What is the shade of their skin? Olive. Are the Moors and Moorish Americans in relation to those angels? Yes, we all have the same father and mother. That's
So
a
so
that's an error.
when they say angels, do they mean like me and Terry teaching? Well, Yasha teaches in the Old Testament that angels are just messenger men.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. But to us, that's what we teach. Like I'm Swift Angel number 4. My chairman Swift Angel number 1. He was called Swift Angel by his teacher. That's who conferred that upon him. And the chairman made us all Swift Angel. Just like the Prince of Peace was conferred upon our German Bay by Noble Drew Ali. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was called the Prince of Peace. He called the chairman Swift Angel, and the chairman conferred commission ad Herefin upon me. So like he was able to make Swift Angels, then I'm the one that aid and assist my family to bring the Herefin out of them. Because the Herefin is already in you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is an Arab right here, bro. That's what the original Arabs look like. And I got plenty more pictures on it. But that's the thing. That's why I keep telling these dudes, we indigenous to the planet. And then I went into this. What shall we call it? This is Noble Drew Ali. He say so often. He say our various journalists find trouble in selecting proper name for the Moorish American. Some say Negro. Another would brand him race man. Still another would call him African American, black, colored, etc. Is it that these people have no proper name? Did they have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century? If so, what was it? Did not the land from whence they were forced to have a name? This is Noble Drew Ali talking. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so Abraham Lincoln, if you look at the symbolism, sign and symbolism for conscious mind and men and understanding, you see how he's standing here? You see how he's standing here? Noble Drew Ali didn't just stand up here like this for a reason. He stood up here in reflection of this picture showing you that your real emancipation come from your one free national name. And he knew this because when he was a judge, this is a case when he was representing a brother and he made a difference between his client being a Negro and a Moor. He said, I say my client may be a Moor, but he is not a Negro. This is before Abraham Lincoln became president, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. Now look, we can't make this up. Now I done showed our people the Moor name on the CDC. I done showed them Abraham Lincoln calling it that, right? Outside of Prophet Noble, it's before Prophet Noble Drew Ali now. Abraham Lincoln calling us a Moor. Now I'm going to the House of Representatives. House Resolution 75, bro. Watch this. In the House of Representatives, April 17, 1933, many sons and daughters of that proud and handsome race which inspired the architecture of Northern Africa, carried in Spain the influence of its artistic temperament, have become citizens of this nation. In the city of Philadelphia, there exists a Moorish American society made up of Moors who have found here the end of their quest for home and of their children, of those who journey here from the plains of Morocco. This society has done much to bring about a thorough absorption of these people, of those principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens. The Moorish Americans have since being here, missed the use of the titles of the name and annexations that were so familiar at home, and which are used in accordance, they talking about Africa when they say home, which used in accordance with the doctrines of religious faith to which they are adherents. Therefore be it resolved that this house commends the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation in bringing about a speedy and thorough Americanization of these former Moors, and that in accordance with the fullest right of religious independence guaranteed every citizen, we recognize also the right of these people to use the name affixes El, Ali, or Bey, or any other prefix or suffix to which they have hitherto been accustomed to use, or which they may hereafter acquire the right to use. On the question, will the House adopt the resolution? It was adopted. Mr. Root offered the following resolution, which was twice read and considered and adopted. So this is right here in the European law, bro. Like, how much more proof do I have to show? I know I ain't got to show you, brother E. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro. Check this out. Now, remember I tell you the name Berber mean barbarian, right?
Yeah.
Watch this. This is a book called Inventing the Berbers. I need to get the physical copy of this.
Now,
Somebody give
now the Beavers and the Berbers, now they ain't the same people.
well, the Berbers is the original. The Berbers are originally known as Moors, but the title was basically changed by the pagan Arabs, the Pale Arabs anyway. They gave the Moors that title because they didn't want to acknowledge the name Mari, because Mari mean Moorish gods. You know, they believe in Allah. We believe in him too, but we believe in Allah in the self, in the Moorish path. That Sufistic doctrine is what the Moors was teaching. So they believe God personified man. But nevertheless, you know, no Arab wasn't finna call us no Moorish gods. You know, they wasn't finna do that. So they like, them niggas is barbarians. You know, so that's who gave us the name Berber. And that's what this book is talking about. It's showing you where the name Berber come from. It says, if early Arabic category did not quite match the classical notion of barbarian, more scholars had to find a way of explaining how Berber came to refer to the peoples that inhabited the Maghreb, which is West Africa. For Gabriel Camp's Berber became successful because it mapped onto a category that had a broad usage and acceptance prior to the conquest. As he explained that the Berbers of the Arabs, it says, are the Moors of the Romans. It says, according to this understanding, instead of conquering the Berbers, the Arabs conquered the Moors. So he basically letting it be known, instead of them talking about Berbers being conquered, the Arabs was really conquering the Moors. So now you see why I tell people that it wasn't the Moors that enslaved our people, it was the Arabs. The Moors was fighting the Arabs. I'm talking about the modern day Arab now. These pale-skinned Arabs. The one that's practiced, you know, that was of the Umayyad Caliphate and the Abbasid Caliphate. They was at odds because the Arabs tried to tax basically General Tariq now and Mansa Musa, and they wasn't going for it, bro. They ran their behind straight back over in the Saudi Arabia. You feel me?
Yeah.
So they got it wrong when they keep saying the Moors enslaved. No, it was the Arabs, fool. They enslaved our people, and they enslaved, you know, tried to enslave the Moors in the past in this time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it says the Arabs conquered the Moors. And then notice it says Mari, Marus, and just called them by a new name. Berbers, barbarian. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this book is all breaking down on how they took the name Moor, you know, from Mari, you know, and basically start calling the people barbarian Berber. It said this equation offers an elegant solution, it says, to the gap in the evidence as Latin and Greek sources become scarce after the 6th century, and Arabic ones begin to appear only in the 8th. In this excellent study of the Moors between the 4th century and the 7th, Yves Madarain thoroughly examined the use of the category in the late antique sources, and I got a lot of them antique sources they talking about too. His goal was to determine the role of the populations named Moors, then Berbers, in the evolution of the Roman Africa in the 3 centuries preceding the Arab conquest. Noting the difficulties inherent in the use of Berber to analyze the pre-Islamic period, he commented on the scholarly practice of translating Moor as Berber. So that's how Berber became popular in modern literature. through Yahweh's Martyrain. But it was normally known as Moor. Remember, I was showing you earlier they even used Moor in the original Bible.
Oh,
And
yeah,
these were, these were a few other pictures I had in here that I didn't show, but I'm gonna show you right here. Some. This was one right here. You see the brother over here on the land. See the European. You see the divide in here. Like, look at more like the natives versus the people coming in trying to conquer something. That's their early Lady Liberty, if you ask me. You know, so right here.
That they already had the red, white, and blue.
Right. See, I was showing how that original Indian end up evolving to look like this. What they call the red man.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's what they know now to be Indians. This is actually the symbol that was on Geronimo's neck. Now, I know you automatically know what time it is there. And that ain't even Masonic. Notice they got the pentagram, the open star up here that's green, bro.
Yeah.
That symbol right there is the same symbol that we have, bro.
Yeah, it's just the other way, right?
Well, what it is just have the crescent with it. But even our crescent and star has the same open star. It's not a closed star. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like you'll see in most masonry. They have a closed star. Yeah, it's an open star. You know? So you're like, yeah, bro, like even this depiction of the Native Americans right here. See our Islamism chart? You see how they got it here? This is a universal symbol. This go all the way back to the Copts, Coptic people in ancient Kemet, the Hikapta. This is what I wanted to show you here. This is a clipping that I have. Look at what they say about Moorish American. This is before Nova Drew Ali too. It says, what kind of people do live in the South America? The Spanish, it says the Portuguese, but chiefly descendants of these European races who have intermarried with the Indians, thus explaining what I said earlier, that intermixing. Remember I was talking about that earlier?
Yeah,
it says, it says other nations have made lesser contributions. Brazil, which is only a few days by steamer from West Africa, is 1/3 Negro, the crudest type of Negro, it says, on the American hemisphere. There's a strong mark of the Moor upon the Spaniard. And they talking about our people basically mixed in with them. The Arabic Moor wrote his customs very deeply in the life of Spain. The people of Mexico, Cuba might be called Moorish Americans rather than Latin Americans. It said the customs and manners and hard experiences of these people in Latin America are more Moorish than Christian, more Muslim and more Arabic than Spanish. This is European in their newspaper. This is reported before Nova Drew Ali started teaching this. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Here's another demonstration here. Talking about the same thing, Mexican and Spaniard Indian. Remember we say Indian is more. Emancipate of slaves, abolish of slavery. Do you think that your hatred is not with equal cordially returned? Furthermore, Adams' conception of war with Mexico was a war of races of the Anglo-Saxon American pitted against the Moorish, Spanish, Mexican American. Same people that was being referred to there. That's a mix between our people and the Spaniards. You know what I mean? And all of this is just information here. This is Mustafa Zamori too, by the way. Brother, I was telling you that he came and discovered Florida. He was the first to go into the area known as the Fertile Crescent. He also became inducted into the Native American tribes. Mustafa Zamori is who the Arabs will tell you. A lot of them in Morocco, they say we descendants of Mustafa Zamori. You know, the ones in Morocco, they's like, yeah, they descend from brother Mustafa Zamori from Azamor. He was from Azamor. But that's the picture of him, you know, after getting tied in with the Native American tribe. He even got a Native American name. You see, he got the feather hanging down from the back of his head. That's a depiction. This is the actual bust of him. He went all the way from this area into Mexico, Arizona. He was all up in there, bro. Um, I already read that. I ain't got to go through that. That's my other DNA stuff, just a different way. This was one here though. Another one talking about the term morose. You know, it says, please tell me why the Muslims in the Philippines are called moros. Remember, I was telling you about the Mari and the Moor and the people in the Philippines, right? Moro is the Spanish form of Moor. Filipino Muslims were called moros by the Spanish because, like the Moorish Muslims, they had dark complexions, which I showed you earlier, the Negrito people, right? It's a Muslim missionaries, first one converts to Islam in the Philippines in the 15th and 16th centuries. And there are now about 500,000 Moros on the Mandano Island. Facts. Like, bro, I was going to kill that brother's scholarship with this particular information right here.
Who was it
You know
for?
what I mean? It was for to be over, brother.
Who was it?
Top cat, top hat, whatever they call it.
Oh yeah, Top Cat. Okay.
Yeah, see, they say Morillians here.
I thought what is here? Is it Aboriginal?
Talking about right here.
No, I'm talking about Top Cat.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to say he a Hebrew, and the
Oh,
Aboriginals are Hebrew, and ain't none of he's Seminole, and ain't none of he went off. You ain't gonna tell me my people. You know what I mean? See, they call that Morillians. See that on the old Indian map, man. Morillians, but see the Seminole tribe. This is just depiction of where everybody at. Miami always been basically called Miami too by the natives. This is a Lenape brother. See, he got the feather in his turban. Lenape Moors. These are the Lenape Moors here too today. They actually called Lenape Moors. So this is my family. You know, you can see that Philippine like looking my uncle and them and my dad and them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's my auntie. And you see all of them because we supposed to have Cherokee roots. My grandmother's name was Pocahontas. You know what I mean? And that's my father. You can see that phenotype
Yeah.
of an Asiatic look somewhat to my old boy right there. Now that he done got older. That's my brother. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But the original or the Aboriginal people is what we talking about. So yeah, man, like, bro. And this is a good site too. This is my last thing I want to show you. This is a good site, brother, for you to go to. And I'm gonna show you too where you can get these sources from as well. For a lot of this information that you be looking for, I'm
Yeah.
finna give you the reservoir to you know you gonna love it. It's been there all the while, but you're gonna love it once I show you this. Let me see. Did it take me to it? Okay, let me go back. Cause this brother website is good here. Got to get this one to you. Okay, let's see. Hold up, it might let me go in there. Let's see. Okay, yeah, let me go in. That's how I be trying to do my stuff now. When I source stuff, I try to put a link at the bottom of certain things where I can just click on the link because people be swearing that you ain't sourcing up if you don't show them the link. I can give them the author book and they'll still say I don't source up. You don't see the hell. So
yeah, y'all
this
heard.
is,
I don't heard them try to call you shooter and stuff on Sunday. I said,
yeah, that's just to try to
sources.
yeah, that's just to try to dismiss what I'm saying. That's the
Yeah,
title
my boy tried to do that to me the other day. Tried to call me shooter. I'm like, man, get out of here.
yeah, they can't defeat the information. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Now this brother here don't even play. He deal with all the DNA information, right? Billy Gambella, and he shows the migration. That's why I went into this page You can go to this website, show the migration pattern of the indigenous people of America. Notice he got some of the same pictures I was using, right? Hold up.
And see, it's like that's
This
what I said.
brother
That's what
here,
Bravo didn't understand when you was asking me.
yeah,
So are you? So what do you mean that you say black people in
bro.
America? I said they black, but they not African. Well, he don't understand what I'm saying. And that African, when you leave somewhere, you go to another place and establish a whole nation of another people. You don't have to call yourself an African. And I don't understand why they don't understand that. If I make something called a
See, this is
Powhatan
what I
nation,
got.
I don't have to acknowledge that they are Africans. If you know what I mean, they're
That's right.
Powhatan nation.
That's right. That's right, bro. And see, this is what I got. I got L3 DNA. You know, the L3 DNA
Yeah, I heard
basically
about
is
the L3.
yeah,
What did that mean about the L3?
that's basically the origin of the E1B1A, straight up out the Sudan. You know, they migrated into Canaan and went back again, basically. You know, very special. And my DNA contributed to the database because you know I got a connection to some ghost DNA too that they still trying to find out about.
Oh,
That's what they said in my information as well. Say I was a contributor, you know, and basically it's like one out of I think they said like 100,000 people or something.
yeah. You know what? I'm gonna do mine because when they, you know what I mean, because that's one thing they can't do what you would that they do and try to do with other people like Israelites and say, "Where's your DNA? You actually got yours," and you know what I mean.
Yeah, well I did it because they were trying to challenge me. Commission, you ain't no commission. Where your DNA at then? You know, and so when I pull it up, my DNA basically saying the same thing I've been teaching the whole while.
Yeah, I mean, if you say your great granddaddy is Ramsey the Third, then shit, you
Yeah,
can use the word commission. That's what you are.
that's what I'm trying to tell you. And I'm more qualified to talk about it. That's why a lot of this stuff come to me like it do, I feel. And
Yeah,
they set him up, man. They plotted against my great granddaddy, his own wife, bro, and his son killed him. You know what I mean? But he
yeah.
was known as the greatest pharaoh to ever live, and he got a whole tomb. I'm gonna go over there. I get some money. I'm going. That's the first place I'm going, bro.
Oh
Just
yeah,
so
yeah,
I can see. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And, and,
I
and,
mean,
um,
you try out them on virtual museum too, like that. Something before that.
oh yeah. Most definitely. You see what they talking about the L2 and the L3, sub-Saharan African. That's where they say 85% of my DNA come from. You know, and that's probably crazy. That's why I like that because of you know, that's a large amount, beloved.
Yeah,
That mean I'm real close, more African than I am in it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
85%. You know, coming up out of the West area, Mauritania, Fulani, Moorish, bro. And that's the thing. They can't say I ain't no more either. You know.
yeah.
So it says sub-Saharan Africa, East African lineages, and they were first major outer Africa expansion groups, populated the two haplogroups, basically running the information down that some of the stuff I was reading. But they showing how this came into the Native Americans. See, they talking about the Beringia here, same thing they was talking about
Yeah.
in my DNA, and this is on that brother website. He going into all the haplotypes. So if you get it, I ain't gonna try to go over everything here. I'm gonna let you, you know, you can do the research. You can go further. I'm just showing you that this guy is showing you how the Indians came over here, the people that they call Indian. Why
So how much
DNA?
the 23 and me like what $1.50 something?
Bro, I caught them on sale. It was like $76. Maybe about
Oh, okay.
$90, I think is the regular price.
And what they do, like mail it to you? Or you just
Yeah, they mailed this little contraption. You know, it came like a day later, seemed like. You know, I put my saliva in it. You know, mine took a little minute. They said to get it back quicker, but mine took about seemed like dang near a month to get it back. They said it take 2 weeks. But maybe they say sometime if your DNA a little more complex, it take longer. You know
oh,
what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah.
But I definitely got rare DNA. I got a rare DNA. I'm gonna show you in a second what they said. See, it said it is when they talk about the migrations. The Americas, Africa, Madagascar, Asia, same area, Australia, same areas. My parents' ethnic ancestral origins and migration, Americas. Healing is similar to mine. Sudan, North Africa, Y-DNA. That's the Y-DNA, Adam DNA. See, it says Autochthonous American. That means indigenous. And Nubian Kushite. That makes sense because remember we were talking about how the Native Americans have a connection to the Kushite. We just showed that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nationality from his parents and genetic origins can be recognized from the following classification: Nubian, Native American, Sudanese, same
Man, that's
ones that I got.
crazy. Nubian Native American.
Same ones that I got, bro. That's what mine basically say. Same type of stuff. Paleo American, Kushite, Aboriginal American. See, he's showing the same people. Mitochondrial DNA heritage.
Ethiopian. Hold on, what did it say right there? Is that part of it, or that's another article?
Yeah, this is the same thing.
Ethiopian,
It's just
mitochondrial
running into the
DNA,
other portions of it. He's showing the
heritage
gene
tracker.
flow and how far it went. See what I'm saying? Because they went into Yemeni and West African lineages. He gonna bring it all the way up into America. Because I got connection to Ethiopia too. Well, which is Nubia, Kush, same
Oh yeah,
thing.
did you ever show me? I don't remember you showing me the books like that.
Oh, talking about to find these books?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
I'm
you was
finna
doing.
pull that up for you in a second.
Oh, okay. I thought you had because I remember you was going to show me. I don't know. I thought you had showed me. And I ain't see it. I forget.
Yeah, it's something right you've been looking at the whole while. So you see that there? The migration pattern?
Yeah,
How they go over there and come all the way over into the Americas, straight out to Sudan, bro. You know what I mean? That mean this dude here, me and him related somewhere down the line. See, they talk about the Cherokees and everything, bro. He goes into all that there. Look at that. This is another reputable site, bro. So if that dude would have got in the ring with me, what you think was gonna happen to him?
oh yeah.
How can you defeat this? It even go in there talking about the Moorish Ferocious, the Nigerian Yoruba, the Berbers, as they like to call them. We already know that's a misnomer. Now look, you know how I always be building on the word more. Look at what this brother say. Moors are Islamic North Africans who ruled and conquered Spain and Portugal and named Al Andalusia before it became Spanish Iberian country. The Moors are not only in Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria. They have Moors from Mali, Senegal. See, that's where a lot of my stuff come through. Gambia, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Chad, all that's more. Sudan, that's the Sahel. That's what my DNA show. It said these are variations of the pronunciations for spelling the ancient black Amor Sephardim Moors. Remember I was talking about them earlier? Moors, Amari, Moors, Moray, Mori, Moriscos. That's what I was telling you. That name Moor, you can't get real, you can't get away from it. It took on so many changes. Like, bro, how can you get around it? They go to talking about all the kings, and it just going into the Native American. This is a reputable site now. So when you get a chance, check this one out. Again, this is Billy Gambella, my brother. Billy Gambella site. He even goes so far as telling you that these were the same people that came into America too. That was the last thing I was trying. Hey, you see all that information this dude do? So he putting all his research from DNA.
Share that link to me.
I'm all right, all right.
Make
And it
sure you
hit
do
me
because
in.
I know you be busy, man. So I know sometimes you can't
Yeah,
get to it.
I be working on them buildings,
Yeah.
you know. But
So
yeah,
what's the name of it again?
Billy Gambella is this guy's name.
Billigan Belly.
Yeah, that's the name of the site. But he show you right here how they came into America, as well. So see
So can
right
I
here.
put if I put like Billy Belly, Billy.
Uh, uh, you should come up if you put Billy Gambella, Afro-Asiatic anthropology. This thing got not just that, but it go into all the history of the anthropology. So he ain't just dealing with these subjects. He go into every group. So if you ever need to go and really do a research on a group, he done covered it already. He got different pages and everything connected. See if it's a Billy Gambella, Afro-Asiatic Anthropology blog.
Billy Gambella. Okay.
Yeah, he putting everything up here as it is, bro. You see his information matching up with my information.
Yeah.
And I'm finna show you. This is what I was telling you get your books from. It's always been here all the while, bro. It's where you're gonna get all the books you need. Google Books, bro. It's gonna give you ancient books.
So like Google Scholar, because I go on Google Scholar sometimes too.
Well, Google Scholar ain't nothing bad at it because they're gonna give you
Google
books,
Scholar
bro.
don't really do nothing but just show like it's just for like paragraphs of the books.
But see, this is gonna give you whole books that you can download, bro, from the 15, 16, 1400. You can trace that information. I'm gonna show you something real quick. All you got to do is type in, let's just say, that's a keyword. Hit Google, right? You see all these new books, right?
Yeah.
I go for the books that been around for since Methuselah. Now you see this from the 1820. This from 1820, right? I don't know what this particular book talking about. I just clicked because it came up with Blackamoor in the Wood, and it actually give you, see it right there. And then this is the whole book. I know when they old like that, go right there, download it. You hit it, download it, bro. PDF, you got it. You just type the little thing in there and they come, bro. And I'm telling you, all the book, esoteric material, bro. Anything you want to find.
Okay.
I'm talking about 16. Look, this from the 1700 right here. You see that?
Yeah.
That's why you see me with all the sources I come with. Because I'm going through here reading this stuff. You feel me? This book from the 1700s, right? And I just go through it, bro. I literally go all day. And it's hundreds of tabs in here, but I sit here and literally go through all these books, bro.
Now, when you're doing the presentation, see, because it's crazy because people be so shocked that I say I do my presentations all on my phone, right? When I do my PowerPoint, but I don't know how to do it on a computer. So how do you get the because on the phone, you can easily copy and paste and download it. But how do you do it on a laptop?
Well, you got to go to where I've been opening up at. You got to go into Word PowerPoint.
I got the PowerPoint.
Now, if I want to get this, and I just want this right here though, all you got to do is print. You can hit FN and then screen. My stuff so loaded up that don't work no more for me. So I just do like this. Look, copy the image. And I just found this out recently because I was going crazy because I couldn't copy and paste nothing no more. Like I ain't gonna be able to create nothing else. What I just copied right there. Well, hold on. Let me do it this way. What I can copy the picture and it's gonna give me the actual picture. Well, I do it like this too normally sometimes. It says save image as, right? So I save the image now. Open the image up. Bam. See how easy that is?
Oh, so what you do? You clicked on it, you copied it.
Yeah, I just right click and hit save image.
But see, hold on, my laptop is like it doesn't have like a right and left click. It's like one big square.
No, you got it. You got it. If you got a laptop, right?
Yeah.
And you got a pad, right?
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Not a pad. I just got a square. Yeah, like a pad. Square.
That's what I'm saying. The square. That's what I got. So you just right click on the square like this. I'm right clicking on the square, and it brought the little thing up like it do on the mouse.
Okay.
So now I go and I left click, save the image. Once I hit save image, it bring it up. I already done saved it, so I ain't gonna save it again. Yeah, I will, just for the sake of doing it. And it downloaded. Then I hit it and open it up, and there it go. And I can do that with any one of these books on here. Now before, like I said, I would just take a screenshot, but now I can. This is quicker than that. So I just copy it, and then I put it in my PowerPoint, and I just build upon that. Okay, I like that right there. I see they got this here. Now let me go out here and see. After I done exhausted, I go through that whole book. Then I go through You know, so I be up like 3 and 4 in the morning. I be telling these people the stuff that's out recently. I don't really pay attention because see, every book has a lineage,
Yeah.
and most of the time, a lot of this stuff here is based off of books that already been written. So I go back to how I want to find the oldest source to where it started at. That's why you often hear me say, you know, I can tell when somebody coming from a new source as opposed to the old source because I done did the research on the old source. You feel me?
Yeah.
See this here? There it go right there. Etymological dictionary, for example. You know, and it's just one word now. And they tell you, okay, this from the 1800s. I want to know what they said the word meant during that time. Never been in this dictionary right here, but let's see what they say. They got different words for more, right? More we know it means to fasten with a ship. We know about that aspect. That's dealing with a ship. We talking about a person. Okay, so what did they say back then as opposed to now? A native of North Africa. More. See what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
ain't gonna find this
Can
in
you
new
go back and show
dictionary.
me? Can you go back and show me how you open it again? Because the screen, it's just kind of
Oh,
small, so I can't. It's hard for me to
okay, I
see
got you.
what
Tell me
buttons.
how I got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went here to the what all out of my same selection in Google Book,
Okay.
and I just clicked on the link. You know, like you go into any other
Oh, okay.
website.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then I blowed it up. You know, like I said, I ain't never even been into this demonstration here. This is just I did this randomly demonstrating, but I'm interested in the definition now. You
So you
feel me?
don't even really have to use PowerPoint when you do this anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to, but I do it like that because I gotta organize it. Cause I got so much information over here, bro. It's bogging my computer. That's why I be moving slow.
Okay. So when you something like this, you do the same thing when you do with the picture. Just copy it and then.
Yeah, I
Um,
get all this information, everything that I'm in my research. That's why I be telling people when I say I got sources upon sources, bro.
yeah.
Like I got 20, 30 sources confirming what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why I know these dudes can't defeat me. I don't say that to be arrogant. I'm like, how you gonna defeat 50 scholars saying the same thing, bro? If somebody
So
listen to you, they crazy.
you wouldn't you don't have to scroll. You don't have to highlight what you want. You can just take
Nah,
that whole
no,
thing.
it's highlighted already. You see it right
Okay.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you whatever you type in, it's gonna be highlighted. You know what I mean? So watch what it say. It
No,
say
no,
more.
I'm talking about like when you copy and paste. So
Yeah,
you
nah,
don't
when
have
I
you know how you had to cross
I
go
know
over
what
the
you're talking
whole
about,
words.
like
Yeah.
grab a piece of it. Nah,
Yeah.
nah, I don't have to do that. What I do is I just like if I wanted to do this here, I right click it like I did the last one, save it, and then when I get to the picture area, I can crop out what I need, which
Um.
is why you see a lot of my stuff there. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like for example, I'm gonna crop this one out just to give you an example, show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm gonna save this image right here that I got in front of me. Hit save. Okay, now I dropped it down here. So what I want out of here, now you see the highlight ain't on there no more, but I still know where it's at. We dealing with the word more. So right here, this is the portion I want. Then I try not to bring it too far out to where it distort the definition. Now I go up here, hit edit. Now it's taking me into the edit area. So now what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
do,
see the crop right there. Yeah.
yep, I'm gonna crop it out now. And it's gonna blow it up once I crop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna blow it all the way up once I crop it. See how it's blowing it up now?
Yeah.
You know. So once I take it here, let's see right there. So when I be cropping this stuff, when people be talking about that ain't no source, I just it's too take too much time sometimes to try to be getting all this stuff right here and putting the names in, but I
Yeah.
do it now so they can't say nothing,
Yeah.
but they be thinking, oh, you did, bro, I got
So
plenty more to
basically,
show.
all you gotta do is really just put the book first, and then show the pages after the book.
That's all I got to do. And
Yeah.
that's what I do. I click on it now and I'm putting links up here. Now, like you see me copy to go into that Gambella demonstration.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna put the link in there so you can go to it. See, it says native of North Africa, or Moor, one of Mauritania, Blackamoor, Nager, Moor, Maurian, Blackamoor, Marus, Moor, apparently same word as the Greek word Marus, basically, dark, on which Curtis, Moorish, Morocco, Blackamoor, Blackamoor. You know, they taught the corruption of the Blackamoor. In other words, you already know it's dealing with our people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's how easy it is to do this research. And the same thing when it comes to the Native American. And it's gonna pull up stuff that normal people don't see, bro. Like here's a whole book on the Moors in Spain from 1896. You know what I mean? These are classics, bro, that they don't print no more. Most of these books out of print, you know. But that's why I be so thorough with it. And so I done read so much of this stuff to where now, beloved, like it's just in the dome now. You know what I mean? I speed read too. The Most High blessed me with that gift. You know, I
Yeah,
can go in the movies.
I'm outside, you know, because my accent kind of messes me up on certain letters. But yeah, on the inside of my head, yeah, I'm a speed reader. Like I can read if I'm just reading to myself in my head.
Yeah, yeah, that's how you know, and I mastered that. They told me when I was in high school, it was like, man, they said you read on a collegiate level,
Yeah,
you know. So and that come from me messing with that music though. So yeah, that's how you do it, brother. Anything you want to come here. Let's say if you wanted to do something on Atlantis, all you got to do is type it in. Then you go to scrolling through here. They
okay,
go to oldest source. I'm going to the oldest source. I don't care too much about in the new books. You ain't gonna get the whole book anyway. A lot of they books based off of these books.
yeah,
Atlantean and Antediluvian world. Whole PDF right here for you, giving you the history behind it. This why you know they don't have to tell you where the sources come from. All that there. You know, so like same thing if I wanted to deal with let's just say hold up. Memorial. I go and they got a lot of modern things in here too, but I'm always looking for the most ancient source. Here go one right here, 1931. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I can download. Well, this one didn't give you the full download on this one, but that's how I do. Wait a minute. What did I just say? How the American Indians came to be the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. See, they talking about that in here.
That's
See what I'm
crazy.
saying? See what I'm saying? I ain't know that was there, but but the Israelites don't see that's mighty Hebrew lane right there.
Yeah, yeah,
That's mighty Hebrew lane right there. You feel me?
yeah.
But that's how he traced himself. I already know what they talking about without even having to go in the book. But I got the
See,
original. I
I
got
like indigenous history, like slave history,
oh
mythology,
yeah. Oh,
esoteric.
they
You know,
got all
that's
that up.
yeah, that's my
Now
stuff.
esoteric, bro. Oh, they go dumb in here. Anything esoteric, like them books on a lot of the masonry and bro, they in here.
Oh, okay.
That's one thing. Like, hold up, watch this. I'm gonna just hit. Let's see.
Hold on, matter of fact,